I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is April 29, 2026. Adequate notice has been provided for this meeting. Mr. Burns is here with us tonight, so roll call, please.
Here.
Mr. Craig?
Here.
Mr. Marco?
Here.
Ms. Devine?
Here.
Ms. Mikulski?
Here.
Ms. Sherman?
Here.
Ms. Z?
Here.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Dilkis?
Here.
And Ms. Mai.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we begin tonight, I just want to take a moment to say, first of all, thank you for being here. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to attend this meeting, and we appreciate your dedication to your schools and your community. We understand that this is a very difficult night for our district. We care deeply about the Garfield family, about all of our staff and our students, and we understand that this will be an extremely sensitive and difficult transition. The goal of the district administration team has been to balance the budget, and we have found ourselves in a situation that has been getting progressively harder to navigate. We know that this is not comforting news for you to hear, but we want you to know that we are and we have been exploring every possible solution. Tonight, we will vote on the budget and on closing Garfield Elementary School. We may not all agree on the trade-offs, but please know that we are all heavy-hearted this evening, and these decisions do not come easy to any of us, no matter how we vote. As a board, we are committed to engaging the community, working alongside our district leaders, and committed to continuing to build the partnership with the borough. We are committed to continuing to serve our students, our families, and our community, and we will continue to focus on solutions to this ever-present situation. Thank you again for coming tonight and for showing up for what we all believe is important. At this time, we have not had any executive session, so I'm going to move into Committee of the Whole. Can I get a motion to enter in Committee of the Whole, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, so at this moment, we're going to have a presentation. All in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to Section 4, and we're going to have a budget presentation.
Okay. So first, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for those who could not join us but are watching online. Before we get started, I just want to second what our board president shared. This is a challenging time, not just for Collingswood, but for education in general. And so this evening is going to be lots of ongoing debate, discussion, deliberation, but the posture that each of us on this dais are bringing is that of community members, residents, parents, human beings. And so I am not just standing up here as a bureaucrat, figurehead, only as a superintendent. I am also a father. I am a resident. I am a taxpayer who cares deeply about this community. I care deeply about my family, who were personally impacted by some of the decisions that we are having to make as a result of this financial situation. And none of us goes into this lightly in terms of the types of decisions that school districts, unfortunately, are making now and in the near future. Okay. We are driven by the mission and vision of our district to make sure that we're providing an inclusive and supportive environment that inspires and empowers every single student, and to make sure that we are building capacity for our students to be able to navigate and be successful in an equitable and socially just world. Over the last 2 years, we have used core values to drive the decision-making process, both as a leadership team, as schools. That is student success is the heart of everything that we do, equity and inclusion, and ultimately team and family. And so these are the guiding principles that drives the decision-making within our district. To frame our priorities moving into 26-27, we are focused on improving the alignment of our administrative teams in order to make sure that we are supporting the strategic goals and objectives of our school district. Actively engage our community to address our infrastructure challenges. For the greater part, since we have returned from the pandemic, we've had ongoing discussion, albeit debate, about what's happened post-pandemic. And the simple fact is that the cost to run and operate schools is significantly outpacing the revenues that we are legally able and practically able to access to balance school district budgets. Continue to identify strategies to secure adequate school funding, actively pursue additional revenue streams, and then commit to supporting and retaining dedicated faculty and staff. In curriculum, a phased implementation of our new ELA curriculum. This past year, we piloted multiple curricula. We got ongoing feedback from our teachers, and this evening we will be putting up for approval from the board a recommendation that came from our staff, which will help us continue to move in the direction of our alignment to the science of reading and ultimately replace the Readers Writers Workshop model of the past. Expand our utilization of universal screeners to include math and ELA. Continued focus on data-driven instruction with our school-wide goals, and then ultimately bringing that down to the grade and at the student level, and then ultimately strengthen our inclusive practices based on direct feedback from our district inclusion task force this year. Pre-K through 5, our priorities are to maintain universal access to high-quality early childhood education for all Collingswood families, update our infrastructure to be able to support and sustain our MTSS model, support the transition of a unified secondary campus, update that infrastructure to support MTSS, implement with fidelity our math curriculum in algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, and then in terms of operations, establish a school-based technology lead program to support instruction at the school site level, establish consistent cycles of technology replenishment to support instruction, and actively seek operational efficiencies and additional shared service agreements. So what is the budget challenge? And so we're not going to be highly technical. We have a very educated community. We're going to set context, but we're not going to go really deep into it because we believe that getting feedback from our community and conversations that are taking place with the board are equally important. This information has been posted on our district website, and so we will talk about it, but we will not bore you with facts and figures for the bulk of this presentation. And so as stated before, the cost exceeds revenues available. The gap that we were forced to overcome was roughly $3.3 million. This was not something that would not affect all categories of employment, all schools, including the closure of a school, all levels, all line items, all operational items were considered. What is driving the cost? Personnel costs increased in a single year by 6.5%. This is despite previous staffing reductions. Since the pandemic, we have unfortunately had to make really tough choices, and we have had to make incremental adjustments to staffing levels for the last 4 years. And despite all of that, our personnel costs, normal rollover costs, cost of living adjustments, what staff members have earned and have a right to, there is a cost associated with that, and that is 6.5%. Health benefits, we are very fortunate and progressive in our approach to not belong to the state employees insurance plan. The state employees insurance plan that is recommended by the state increased by 33%. We use insurance brokers to help use cooperative negotiation to lower our operational expenses as it relates with our insurance, and we are seeing still astronomical, but a 22% increase. What does that translate into real dollars? Because percentages can be funny. That is roughly $1.25 million more to maintain the exact coverage that we have today in a single year. Out-of-district tuition rates, fortunately, the leadership in the State Department of Education maintained flat levels of state tuition rates. However, we have seen a progressive increase over the last 5 years of roughly 18%. Required maintenance to be able to maintain all of our facilities is roughly 6.5% over the last 5 years, with utilities increasing almost 80%. So what has been done to address these challenges? First and foremost, we have aggressively pursued extra resources through philanthropic endeavors, through state, federal, and private grants. Currently, the well has run dry. There is not a lot of additional revenue available through the philanthropic world. The federal government has canceled billions of dollars in federal grants, including some of the grants that we were able to receive. And so those funds are currently not available. That does not stop us from pursuing additional revenues when they do become available. Our joint insurance ventures are very beneficial in helping us to reduce our operational expenses. We also participate in a utilities consortium to lower the cost of energy for all of our schools. We have cooperative purchasing to lower the cost of instructional materials and supplies in all of our schools. And we have been aggressively pursuing shared service agreements, whether they be with other school districts for administration, business services, maintenance, technology, safety, in order to generate revenue that then gets turned back into support for our schools. Transportation costs, we have worked with our special education department in order to reduce our overall spending as it relates with special education transportation. And by partnering with our local boroughs, both in Collingswood and Oak Glen, we're able to actually lower our costs in terms of trash removal. We also believe that by offering robust programming, both at the early childhood level, at the elementary level, and at the secondary level, that increases the opportunity to be able to retain students and decreases the likelihood of having to send students out for private tuition and out-of-district placement. School funding advocacy. We are very fortunate to have a community that is highly engaged and cares deeply about its schools. They care deeply about their children. And so we've had community members over the last several years. They have written letters. They have participated in hearings. They have joined advocacy groups. And we need to continue with that information. Policy papers have been written. There have been other organizations that are also working at the state level in order to tackle this. Collingswood, as well as our sister district, Oak Glen, we are active members in the New Jersey Fair Funding Collective, which is a regional group of school district personnel, school personnel, board members, community members that affects all of us as it relates with fair school funding and the burden and the impact that it's having on our local communities. I shared public hearings. There have been continual public hearings over the last several years. They help to bring light and attention and the necessary push to our state legislators. We also have local community members that are helping to share information to dispel misinformation within our communities about what is happening, what is not happening, and ways that we can all work together. And then ultimately, last year, based on this being a pervasive statewide problem, 150 school districts, including Collingswood and Oak Glen, were given a one-time opportunity to participate in a tax levy incentive program which waived the 2% tax cap. And so the state has a cap on what local school districts are able to increase in terms of revenue. That was waived for a one-time opportunity. And so we participated in all of those core pieces. That opportunity was granted based on advocacy from community members like you at the local level. So what's the current status of our funding sources? Okay. And so I'm going to share with you really quickly about enrollment, and then I'm going to hand it over to our business administrator for the evening, Mr. Burns. And so what you're looking at here is projected enrollment year over year for the last 3 years. And so projections for enrollment come from the State Department of Education in October of the preceding year. That does not mean that is actual enrollment. For example, in the 24-25 school year, the state projected us to be at 23-29. Our actual enrollment was 2207. In 25-26, the state projected us to be at 2267. Our actual enrollment was 2191, which translates into a net reduction of 16 students from that year. And so what you see for the 26-27 school year is the state has estimated what our enrollment might be. Specifically of note, you will see a decrease in preschool. We were allotted in 24-25 235 students. We actually had 217. They maintained our allotment for this current school year despite 217 students, and so they readjusted our allocation aligned with 217 students, which enabled us to actually remove our wait list. And so in the eyes of the state, we have reached what is called universal preschool access in Collingswood. And then other than that, you see the projected enrollment by grade band. The numbers in the 25-26 school year in parentheses are actual enrollment. And so the numbers on the left are projected enrollment from the state of New Jersey. The ones in parentheses are actual students in the building as of today. Mr. Burns?
Good evening, everyone. So this table shows the revenue for the district this year. What you'll see, a couple key things. Obviously, the first number is fund balance. What fund balance is, for example, this year, say we have $400,000 in surplus at the end of this year. That money would roll over into not next year, but the following year after it's audited. So that $156,000 number is a number that was left over last year, rolling into next year's budget. The reason why that number is so significant is since COVID, these numbers in many districts have decreased, their surpluses have decreased. This number used to be 1.2 million in this district. So automatically, what you're seeing is almost $1 million shortfall in the budget, just because of surpluses. The tuition number is another one that we're seeing a decline. When you look at the enrollment that Dr. McDowell showed in the last one, you'll see we're seeing a decrease. Some of that is tuition students. Well, tuition students bring in revenue. So we're seeing a shortfall with tuition that's decreasing over the last 2 years or so. The maintenance and capital reserve withdrawals, the maintenance reserve, this will leave us at zero. So this is basically money that we were able to put in over the years to help defer maintenance costs. This reserve has to go to maintenance costs of next year's budget, and it'll leave our reserve at zero. The cap reserve, that's used for capital projects. So when you see projects being done on the school, like a roof, that's something of that nature would come out of that. They can only be used for those purposes. State aid, we saw a slight decrease this year. But again, over the last so many years, the little decreases have added up with inflation to be significant, and that they're not keeping up with our expenses. Overall, the revenues are seeing a shortfall of probably about $1 million. That's what's not being shown there, but that's basically what we're at. We're seeing a shortfall because of the fund balance, the tuitions especially, in those two areas. This just shows a chart of the revenues on the last slide. Obviously, the taxpayers, like in most local districts in this area, whether it be the Haddon Townships, the Haddon Fields, the Haddon Heights, the taxpayers pay the brunt of the budget. 50% of local taxes, state aid is 25%. And obviously, again, what we're saying is that that number is continually not keeping up with the cost of expenditures. The next slide shows the expenditures into certain key buckets, that being instruction, student services, facilities, and administrative. As you would expect, the most significant portion of our budget would go to instruction because that is our goal. That is our business. Our business is to provide instruction, and therefore that's where the costs are. Student services would be things like counseling. It would also be like OT, PT, and things of that nature. Facilities, that would be the buildings, the grounds, and the administrative would be basically the central admin office as well as certain supervisors. The next thing just simply shows the exact thing on the last slide is the pie chart. So, now what you'll see for the average taxpayer, the increase is about $27 a month, $28 a month, about $330 a year. That would be on the average assessed home of $448,000. Dr. Dow, do you want to take this back? Or maybe you'd like to present this.
Steve likes to give me the hard part. So what you're looking at here, this is just an infographic that we have used to visualize what is happening countywide. And so these are all of the school districts within the county, and what you will see down in blue is Collingswood is ranked number 10 in terms of percent of local funding that is actually received. And so the state funding formula determines what local communities should be spending on their schools, but the local tax levy is what they are required to spend. And so there is a huge disconnect between what the state believes communities can afford versus what they can actually afford. And so Collingswood is ranked number 10th in terms of lowest percentage of local funding. What you see, the red line across the middle is 100% funding between state and local. And as you can see, we are below, pretty significantly below. The green area indicates state level funding, also referred to as equalization aid. And what you will see for Collingswood is that we are actually receiving above and beyond what the state says we should be receiving due to the tremendous gap in local funding. And so since 2013, Collingswood has been flat funded in terms of state equalization aid. Flat funding directly translates into a 3 to 5% cut because it's not keeping up with the rate of inflation. What we saw for the 26-27 school year wasn't just flat funding, it was an additional $305,000 decrease, which is a significant decrease in terms of state equalization aid. Next slide. And so when we talk about the local funding gap, I want to be very clear. Our borough is providing all of the financial resources that they are statutorily required to provide. The state formula says that they should be providing more, and therefore our state aid is reflective of that particular number. And so that gap continues to grow, and there is no legal mechanism to close the gap. Last year, this funding gap was $8.7 million. We were able to close a portion of that gap with the one-time tax levy incentive program, which translated into a $4 million increase at the local level, which still leaves a $4.6 million funding gap. And so what you see here is that the state expects local town to pay $28 million, but what they're actually required is roughly 24 million. And so there's a huge disconnect between the interpretation of the funding formula and the spirit of the funding formula, which is what we're fighting against at the state level. Next slide, please. This is another infographic that just kind of shows where we have been for the last several decades. Going all the way back to 2013, when we began to run in what's called a structural budget deficit. And so the state law changed in 2008. In 2009, it began to be implemented, and then Collingswood began to experience a structural challenge in 2013. We were able to manage it through wise spending, operational efficiencies, and ultimately floating funding from previous year's savings in order to close the gap. And then in 2020, COVID hit, and that changed the calculus as it relates with school and district funding. And so since the 2020-21 school year, we have been unable to keep up with the rate of inflation, and those costs are significantly outpacing our ability to balance the budget. Next slide, please. In terms of tax rate, we live in New Jersey, and the way that schools are funded, good, bad, or indifferent, a portion of school funding comes from local communities. The challenge that we continue to see is that the burden of school funding is continually placed at the feet of homeowners and residents year after year, and we've reached a breaking point where the funding is just not available. Conversations will need to be held in local communities like ours. There's only one pot of money. We cannot continue to tax our communities out of their homes. What we can do is we can rethink how we're allocating the pot of money that is coming in within our communities to be able to achieve the goals of successfully funding our schools and making sure that we maintain the integrity and the consistency of our municipal services and all of the things that our community values, which is what led them to move here in the first place. And so this particular chart, just for illustrative purposes, shows you the tax rate broken down by school district and community, Collingswood being one of the lowest, third only to Haddon Township and Camden City. And so when we talk about state aid, there are multiple allocations related to state aid in totality. Equalization aid is the adjustment that the state has made for districts like ours because we are underfunded locally. We are currently overfunded to the tune of $1.4 million. And so the reason why we have been flat funded since 2013 is because we're overfunded in equalization aid. We have been given direct notification from the state. We will continue to see reductions in equalization aid until that number comes down to zero. And so we will anticipate for the next at least 5 years to see pretty significant reductions to state equalization aid to the tune of $300,000 to $400,000 each and every year. What about grant funds? As stated at the very beginning, we actively pursued additional grant dollars to give us more time. And so over the last several years, we've been able to secure roughly $7 million in grant funds. Many of those dollars have either expired or were canceled by the federal government last year based on them no longer aligning with the current administration's goals and priorities. And so this is not an excuse, this is just, it is what it is. And so what this translates into is about $1.5 million a year in funds that we had gone out to secure in order to assist with this problem to give us more time. Next. So what does this mean for 26-27? This means that we are looking at a reduction of 30 full-time positions. Last week, when we met in our committee of the whole, the number was 33. Thank you to our association leadership who raised some valid points. We worked in partnership with our association, and we were able to restore 3 of those positions. by restructuring the way that the finances were interpreted, because we fundamentally believe that making sure that we save every position that we can is vitally important. And so that number came down from 33 to 30. 30 reductions. This includes all categories: administrative, teaching, secretarial, support, and facility staff. This means the closure of Garfield Elementary and the reassignment of 113 students into the 4 remaining schools. May 8th, impacted families like mine will receive their child's assignment for the 26-27 school year. There will be an impact on class size at the elementary level based on the redistribution of assigned students. We will also be relocating 2 preschool classrooms that are currently housed in Sharp. We'll be relocating them to our new College at Parkview campus in order to relocate the elementary wellness team to the Sharp location, because we believe that the elementary wellness team is vital and it is extremely important to the success of our schools. This also includes the consolidation of the middle and the high school campus. We are restructuring management and operations, and we are consolidating programs and services in spaces where it makes the most sense. This also means the closure, as we know it, of the Wellness Center at the secondary campus. The Wellness Center was federally funded originally with the promise of renewal if we hit our goals and objectives. Once the federal grant was canceled, that closed the door for us to be able to do that. That was roughly $970,000 per year that the budget is unable to sustain internally. Middle school athletics and co-curriculars will have a revised activity fee schedule that is currently in development. And there will be reductions to other operational line items, supplies, equipment, and so on. Next slide. Our budget timeline is that on March 27th, the board approved the budget submission to the county office. On April 20th, we received approval of said budget submission. We will be going out to bid for summer facilities and capital projects between now and the end of the school year, so that those can also be approved so that the summer work can take place. Tonight is our public hearing, and we are voting to finalize the budget's implementation. And starting in May, we will begin opening the budget so that schools can begin entering requisitions, placing orders, and we will be issuing all employee contracts by May 15th. Next. So what are next steps? First and foremost, we need the community to use that same passion, that same engagement to help us advocate both at the local level and at the state level. Contacting our local and state legislators, sending letters advocating for fair funding, engaging our commissioners to work collaboratively for us to solve this problem together. We are one community, and we have to stop isolating it, us versus them, theirs versus ours. These are all public resources, these are all public dollars, and it is one community, and so we have to work together. Community support, welcoming Garfield families. Children needing or being subjected to a move, especially those who this is the only school that they've ever known. It's a challenge, it's a traumatic experience, and showing grace, care, and compassion to the impacted children and their families is needed at this time. And so making sure that we are not just talking about this, but we are actively welcoming impacted families to their new schools, including them in events, reaching out our hands and bringing them along and helping them acclimate and adjust in a really challenging environment is what is needed. And then ultimately, and this is a gratuitous plug, bringing that passion and expertise by joining our local PTAs. Our local PTAs have done the yeoman's job of not only advocating for positive and meaningful change within our community, but they've also put actions to their words. The extracurricular things that happen in many of our schools, things like project graduation, things like field trips, things like guest speakers, all of that happens off of the collective efforts of our PTAs. And so I strongly encourage, if you have passion and expertise and want to be part of the solution, please consider joining a local PTA. And we'll now open it up to questions from our Board of Education. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open it up to you guys if you have any questions or comments.
I have a question about the enrollment projections from the state. So last year, they projected us like 100 more than we had. Do we know why they, do we know why they projected it so high and why we didn't have like that number? Like what's the discrepancy there?
I'd have to check with you. I didn't provide these numbers, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I assume these are from the ASSA, which would be the official school count. I'd have to.
It would be for what?
Oh, sorry.
I'll answer it. So Stacy, the way that the state interprets projected enrollment is they look at school-age children in all of the categories, and they identify a projected enrollment of school-age children. What they don't necessarily align to is any child that is homeschooled, any child that goes to a private or a parochial school. They don't account for that in their projected enrollment. Or any child that transfers away from us over the summer. And so it's used as a guideline in order to plan your budget, but we use our local student information system to accurately plan and budget for students who are actually in the building.
So does the projected enrollment, does that affect the funding that they give us at any?
Because we are overfunded in terms of equalization aid, not so much. If we saw a significant uptick in terms of enrollment, 150, 200 students, there could be some positive effect to stop the decrease. But because we're overfunded, we wouldn't necessarily see an immediate increase in revenues unless we, for whatever reason, saw a couple hundred students come into our rolls.
So I'm looking at the reductions that you had sent us last week, after last week's meeting. We were able to gain back 3 more positions, correct? Are you able to, do you remember where they were put back?
Yes, 2 kindergarten aides and 1 social worker.
Okay, and then this adds up to 2.9 million and change. We had to cut 3.3. What's the difference? What else is being removed from the budget that we don't see here?
The tuition adjustment with Woodland was significant. And so what we did was we made a deal with them to pay it over 3 years. And that was a significant portion of that extra $400,000 that you're referring to.
I had mentioned in,
Hold on a second, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Also, when we approve those tuition contracts, you'll see a footnote in them with that agreement as well.
I had mentioned in committee of the whole last week about, so as Oakland representative, we have the OEF, the Oakland Education Fund or Foundation. Oakland's tiny in comparison to Collingswood. We have like 4 local businesses in like the little downtown that's not, you can walk into. Collingswood is rampant on businesses down Haddon Ave. And I think you said something about maybe there's a starting foundation that was going to be coming through, but it's just surprising to me that Collingswood hasn't done that yet to advocate like small businesses helping out, funding on education, things like that. So
I think small businesses help a ton with PTAs too, so like asking them to pay for more and more, I'm pretty sure all of our PTAs benefit, so.
There actually is Collingswood Education Fund in the works. There are meetings taking place, a board is being put together, so hopefully by the spring, there'll be more information about that.
When you talk about the streamlining and the restructuring of management and operations at the secondary level due to the unification plan, could you just give us an idea of what the impact that's going to have? I do see an administrator reduction, considering we're now going to have a unified campus. Looking at the enrollment numbers, we're looking at over 1,000 students. So can you give us an idea of what that's going to look like when we have one less building administrator trying to support 1,000 students altogether?
So in looking at where individuals are placed and how they're placed, it's extremely important. And so the feedback that we've received, not only from the staff but also from our community, was that we needed to address having local secondary support for special education. And so we restructured there. In terms of where individuals will be physically located, proximity matters. And right now, we believe that there's a more effective way to distribute leadership throughout the building to actually increase the degree of supervision. We're working to streamline some of the operational demands by decreasing some of those demands so that administrators will spend the bulk of their time in classrooms to support students and teachers. And so we've still got a lot of work to do. And it's really working smarter, not harder. Financially, we could not in good conscience make reductions to any category of position without looking at administration first. And so we made strategic reductions to administration in addition to other areas. And so just as a point of clarification, our administrators are all, just like every other position within our district, working incredibly hard. And so I want to caution us from continually going to the specific conclusion that our administrators are also not working with great degree of challenge. Administrators run programs, they support staff, they support larger numbers of individuals. And so as a school district, we acknowledged that there were some areas where we needed to be more strategic in the long term, and over the last 5 years, we've reduced 6 administrative positions over the last 5 years in order to get more in line with where we believe we need to be, given this financial challenge.
So I'm looking at the reductions again, and can we go through anything that doesn't have a sum of an FTE? Some of them I think are self-explanatory, athletic salaries, extracurricular salaries. I'm assuming they will be backfilled with pay to play. Is that a fair assumption?
So at the middle school level, the calculation is going to look a little different because there are some activities that are more costly than others. There are some that have larger numbers of participants than others. And so we're going to have to look and evaluate program by program to make sure that we're able to successfully run the programs, but that we're not pricing individuals out of the programs. And so that work is going to be taking place over the next 30 to 60 days.
That's the reduction, right? For stipends for sports?
Yes,
And,
yes,
okay.
yeah.
And then, let's see, NA and other salaries, that's quite a big chunk of change. It says NA represents non-salary reductions and benefits. Can you give us, excuse me, some examples? This list is really helpful. It just doesn't give as much clarity as I would like to see before voting on a budget. So that's why I'm asking these questions.
I just also, I know that there's a lot of talk about some of the central administrative positions from that chart. You know, it said that there only 7% of our budget is administrative, which I've been in different school districts, seems, I don't know, about average or low on the lower side. And there is a flyer distributing around the crowd that's talking about central administrative positions, including our BA, our superintendent, our 2 assistant superintendents, our BA, and our superintendent of curriculum and instruction. Can you clarify, those are both shared by Oakland and Collingswood, correct?
Yes.
They're not just for one district.
Yes, we are in essence running two businesses. And so I also want to make sure that we're being really, really clear. School districts are businesses. And so we are operating a $50 million enterprise. Things like payroll, benefits, all of those core pieces are part of the business of education. And so yes, in many cases, those are shared costs with Oakland. For most of our administrative costs, they're paying roughly 12%, with exception of the financial piece, which they're paying 80% in order to be able to make sure that we're in financial compliance. Because just like we are here this evening, we have another budget meeting and board meeting tomorrow night. And so we're not only doing one budget, we're doing 2 budgets. Yeah. So yes.
Okay, and just, I also want to make clear, these positions, I know that, like, there seems to be still a lot of misinformation about the fact that they're called assistant superintendent positions, but this is a business administrator position and a director of curriculum instruction. One overseeing kind of like the payroll side, the financial side, one overseeing more the day-to-day instructional side. These are common to every school district. Every school district I've ever been in has had a BA and a director of curriculum instruction, regardless of size. So like just in this area or smaller school districts, found I think 37 school districts, including Haddon Heights, Haddon Township, Woodbury, a number of other ones that were 2,000 students or below that also had BAs and directors of curriculum instruction. And so I just wanted to make sure that is a very common position in public education.
So I think, well, I'm gonna challenge the term common. Directors of instruction, business administrators are in state law, and so this is not it's not that it's just a common practice. It is actually in state statute. And so I also want to be really, really clear is that we have net reduced 6 administrative positions in the last 5 years. Mind you, the names or titles of positions may change. For example, I am old enough, unfortunately, to remember we had a typing teacher position. We no longer have a typing teacher. Those have been replaced by computer or business education or so forth. And so the titles have changed, but the number of positions have decreased. And so yes, those positions are in statute, and we're being in compliance with what the state is asking for us to do in order to do the business of the school district.
Ms. Z. Sorry, I had to pull up the spreadsheet so I could look at what you're looking. Even closer, sorry. So those reductions that are in the NA category are the various things. So for example, one of the items is when we develop the budget, you always have contingency out-of-district placements because a student can be classified as out-of-district or have to go out-of-district, and you have to make it happen. So when we go into the original budget, when we have our perfect budget with everyone staffed, everything all put in, we had a contingency child that we took out of it. So that was one of them. That was 75,000 of it. We had other things. A lot of it was reductions of supplies and some professional development. There were, for example, one of the reductions was the gym floor of the church. We had to hold off on that. So that was 93,000. So there, right there, I just gave you 150. The new ELA curriculum, we were going to phase it in all at one time. We decided to do it in stages instead. That saved 120,000. So the point being is all those little things kind of added up pretty quickly. And so they were probably the first set of things that we looked at cutting, because obviously we want to do that before we ever impact anybody personally, any staffing.
And then other salaries, that's another line item with no FTE, and that's 124. Do you,
I'm not. There were certain salaries that were not, that aren't associated with FTEs. For example, reduction in middle school sports stipends. So that would be part of that.
wouldn't that be
That
athletic
was, yeah,
salaries?
I'm looking through the spreadsheet
Okay.
as I'm talking.
Yeah.
Please.
So maybe
Here it
things
is.
like the summer program, the work
Yes.
program, that's what I was
So
thinking, maybe that was
There were
decreased.
reductions to the facility department. For example, the summer staffing. They include student staffs, students who are staff members over the summer. That was reduced. That was 45,000. There's a lot of these things were a reduction of subs. So, for example, obviously with the closing of Garfield, we did not need the sub lines for substitute teachers, so that was a cut. No FTE there. It's just these are just substitutes that come in for the day and cover a class. We reduced, one thing we found is we reduced special ed home instruction, for example. We didn't spend all the budget this year, we're not going to, so we reduced that line by a little bit. Like I said, there's all these little things that that are salary lines in a budget accounting perspective, but not an FTE perspective.
Regarding the different positions and things that were cut, you know, as I wrote in an email yesterday, we are in a terrible crisis, and obviously hard decisions have to be made, absolutely. And, you know, no additional cut is going to save all of the jobs that have had to be eliminated. However, you know, I would also like to point out that while, yes, school districts have to have a business administrator and districts have directors of curriculum, there's a lot of other positions also under central administration that are not those positions. And, you know, we were told that there would be cuts across the board. And I just feel that, you know, considering that, according to this, the secondary math department is going to have to take on a lot more students, just for example. Perhaps what I would like to see are additional eliminations across the board, perhaps also in central administration, to perhaps restore some of those teaching positions to just kind of equalize, you know, some of that. I think that would show maybe some good faith in these very difficult times.
So I just want to make sure that we are, as we're in this conversation, accounting for everyone working in this district supports our students, and all roles really do have an impact. Right? We just came from a family vacation, and several of our family members are teachers, and they really talked about having the support in their curriculum development. That wasn't for them to create and find, and having development opportunities. And I would offer that value is significant, and we shouldn't diminish one for the other, because I don't think there's a standard ratio of where we are expecting. I also would say that we have been very clear that as we are able to restore and rebuild our budget over time and hopefully get the investment we need, that certainly supporting programming and instruction is priority. That is what the budget illustrates, right? I do not think that this budget illustrates that we are imbalanced, so I also want to make sure that we're really measured. Most of our administrative expense is a shared expense. It is not just for Collingswood to support. It is not just the Collingswood taxpayer. So I do want to make sure, I appreciate that we want to see balance, but I would offer that we need to be really fair about what does that really mean? Be specific about our intention of making that comment, because I don't know, are we expecting it to be 2% versus 7%? I think as a board, we have to hold that we must have a balanced budget. We must ensure our outcomes are improving. We must hold ourselves accountable to that. And I think we can all sit here and be confident that we have not made any decision without understanding the trade-off, and that we are deeply invested in making sure that we rebuild where we are able and when we are able, right?
Absolutely, and really quick, if I could just respond to that. I've been a public school teacher for 26 years in a very large district. I am very aware of all of the moving parts and all of the people that have to contribute to an education. And talking about reallocating possible eliminations is not to diminish anybody's contribution to the district. Absolutely not. I am well aware after all of my years. All I am saying is, these cuts are difficult, and, just proposing perhaps another way to look at things, I think that's a fair question.
I think if you look at the numbers, these cuts on a basis of as was presented. Thank you for yelling at me, Sarah. If you look at the buckets for the district expenditures, instruction 66%, administrative 7%, facilities 11%, student services, and then you correlate that to the dollar and FTE amounts in those reductions, it's essentially in line with those across the board. These are even-handed reductions across the entire staff.
There's been a lot of school budget discussion throughout the state of New Jersey as it is budget season. And a lot of districts, if you just look across the state, a lot of districts are in the situation that we are in now, where our expenses are outpacing our revenue. Something that I've seen consistently when looking at the discussions in communities and at board meetings when these difficult budget decisions have to be made is a consistent, I'd say, attack on the administrative staff of a district. And one of the things that I find difficult to square with is to say that we are comfortable saying that one part of our school district that serves our kids is worthy of support, but the other part of our school district that serves our kids, they're not worthy of support. And oftentimes, they're also the ones who serve without union protection. At the core, I think, of what some of the debate that we're going to have tonight about this budget is whether or not we up here on the board believe that our administrators have worked their tail off to find the best possible budget in a terrible solution that serves all of our kids' needs. Does it make everyone happy? Absolutely not. It makes none of us happy. But I'm looking at this paper that was distributed around the room tonight, talking about non-student facing positions in the central administration, which includes staff that have, administrators that have young children in this district. So the big thing there being that what we're saying here is do we believe that our staff, including staff who have children in a district, have done their due diligence to make the best possible budget out of a really terrible situation? It's really, I think, easy to pick out each of these line items and not understand the bigger structure of the district and the day-to-day needs. And that is what our staff have to do. Now, for the board, I remember during the last committee of the whole, we discussed some alternative priorities, some alternative solutions to try to bring in more revenue or to shift things. From my understanding, we have been very clear to the administration that we need to minimize the administrative costs. We have a budget in front of us that does so to the best of the ability in terms of maintaining the functions of the district. If that is not enough, we have other priorities as a board that we can propose. one of the ones we discussed last week was whether or not we consider voting for the administration to prioritize all staff positions, and in doing so, make all extracurricular activities pay to play. That is one way for us as a board to help shift the cost and to save staff. But there are trade-offs there, and there are serious trade-offs there that I don't think any of us here on the board are comfortable with. We also talked about finding ways to bring in more revenue. These type of discussions where we figure out, hey, how can we support this district by bringing in more revenue is really what is important and needed, rather than continuous attacks on the people that serve our district and our children.
I want to just to say that, like, sitting up here for the last several years and seeing these budgets, like, I don't think we've had one that has been easy to discuss, to debate, to come out and to vote on. We've had a lot of really tough conversations. I mean, last year still sticks with me. We were able to find ways around that, but this has been a growing issue for years. As we saw with all the charts, with all the numbers, it's something that we're, as a board, are going to have to come together to figure out ways to solve. And I think in doing that, we need to be able to bring the community along together with us, because it's going to take their buy-in to ensure that we don't see further cuts happening in further years that are going to lead to other changes that we just really, as a district, can't afford. And I say that not in dollars and cents, but just as like the soul of what it is to me to be a student or a community member in Collingswood. And I worry about what those will be. And I think it is going to take bigger conversations about if we want to explore things like an operational referendum. We need to talk very seriously here as the board about what it is that we're going to prioritize, and we need to have alignment going into that, because if we are fractured, it will not pass. And if something like that is where we're going to put our eggs in, and that's where we're going to push for, if it doesn't pass, we're looking at a future where we're closing more buildings, where we are going into full pay for play, where we're making more cuts that we can't abide by. And we have to, the costs are not going to come down anytime soon. I think we're seeing that. I think everybody is seeing that. And it is not easy also to have those conversations about where we're going to add to the cost of somebody else's. But we know as a community what we value here with what our students deserve on a day-to-day basis. And I think, again, it is imperative on us as a board to come together and be united in how we are going to present these options moving forward.
So one thing that does not serve our students, that there are 5 line items on this reduction sheet that are cheaper than the lease of Good Shepherd, and we have never considered pulling that. And I don't understand why we are not, that's not a discussion point. I brought this up 2 meetings ago and was told that that's just one line item. Well, that one line item could take care of one of these. It's just something that nobody wants to give up, and I understand why it's important, but I also don't understand why we're putting it in front of student-facing positions.
So I would. You know, one thing that I would love to point out here is this is why the partnership with the borough is so important, right? It's the rent issue is not going to be an issue because the borough, in partnership with the district, has agreed to buy Good Shepherd for us, right? So, and then on top of that, afterwards, you can use it to bring in revenue. But here's, I think, one of the big reasons why we have to think long-term for this district. I think, as Mr. Craig said earlier, we need to really be thinking seriously about an operational referendum. We need to think about an operational referendum this fall in order to bring in more revenue for a district, or we'll be facing additional cuts in the future. I know no one likes to talk about more taxes. No one does. But that is the truth of the matter. When we talk about structural budget deficits, what we're talking about is the fact that the raises that we've agreed all of our staff deserve, well earned, far outpace the amount of money that we can bring in year to year because of the 2% tax cap at the state level, right? So we will need to go out for referendum in order to afford to keep on giving the raises and the benefits that our staff that take about 70 to 80% of our budget deserve. So we go out, we ask for that referendum, right? That's going to increase taxes permanently for the town. That's something that I personally am willing to go and ask the town for, and to myself, because I believe that our staff deserve those raises. But we also need to think about the facilities of our district, what environments our staff are teaching, what environments our students are learning in. And we have to think about the tax burden on our town. How do we do that if we do not look for the most efficient way possible to upgrade our facilities? The Good Shepherd building is extraordinarily important to prevent us from having to go out for a $50 million referendum when we could get a new elementary school building at a fraction of that cost because we're renovating an existing structure. One of the thing, like we have to think not just now but also long term. We have to invest in our district as a town. I'm saying this as a taxpayer myself. We have to invest. And it's going to take recognizing and accepting that fact that we as a town are going to have to pay more.
So I just want to, Miss Z, I don't want to mess up your name, so I'm going to use your abbreviated name. Thank you. I want to just acknowledge your point and offer that there is a lot of discussion. I think I will publicly say that the district leaders have really absorbed a lot of feedback and direction, both from our board at large and both from Ms. Maya and myself, around how do we redirect, reduce, and it is not lost on us that there's an opportunity as it pertains to Good Shepherd, and we are not going to count something before it has happened, right? It would be foolish to assume that we can count on rent that it doesn't have a signed agreement in front of us. So I do think, yes, near term, that collaboration with the borough can certainly create relief. Until it is actualized, we can see there's clear opportunity, but we cannot assume it right now, today, before we approve this budget. But it is not lost on anyone, at least in this group, that is where we need to keep pushing and focusing our attention so that those near-term reduction of expenses can help us reduce this number on the list. I also agree, yes, there's nearer-term items, right? There's a space to shift from 47 to 50. That's something of what we already pay in taxes. But again, we need collective and collaborative discussion around what are the trade-offs to help us not have to have a list of reductions going forward. It's all of these layers. It is not either or, but they have to be and. And so all of us at this board need to really step 1, step 2, step 3, and recognize they're happening in order, but transparently to provide updates. I think we have learned too soon does not help everybody appreciate the timing and have confidence that it will be able to be applied in the budget right now, right? We cannot tell the state we might have this done by the time this next budget season is in place. And so we are actively working on how do we create more space in this budget to preserve the team members and staff on this list. That is an active and ongoing conversation, and recognizing we cannot promise something just from various discussions. So we need to continue across all forums, not just at board meetings, the prioritization of funding for our schools, right? I will keep saying that because We will hear this evening a lot of members of our community tell us how they feel about the decisions that we've had to make, and I'm going to ask that we also hold everyone in this community accountable for also shifting, having tough conversations, because it is all of us. We are shared public good. We have several. We are one of many. And we all need to collectively align on how do we support this public good that we deeply believe in and want to prioritize and preserve and must preserve for the future. Facilities, we have an opportunity, and again, we need to get our plans in place. We need to get through this moment and also start to articulate what we're doing going forward. But there are active conversations underway. So I trust us, and I believe we've tried to give updates timely to the board so you're clear on where we are and where we're trying to go.
I want to say that I appreciate all the dialogue tonight. I know that these are really tough conversations, and as you all can see, we all have a difference of opinion on how this should go, and these are good conversations for us to have. But I want to remind all of us at the table tonight that we have a community here that is hurting, and we have to focus on that right now. And they need to be our top priority, and I get that these conversations are really important, but I just want to remind everybody that our focus tonight needs to be on them. Does anybody else have anything else to add?
I can understand and appreciate that, but I do want to ask, just because there's a lot of news stories about districts that are not able to pass budgets. What is, let's say that we have members who vote no time and time again, and we're unable to send a budget to the county and the state. What happens next? I mean, are we completely abdicating our authority to the state? That's something that really concerns me, given that the state has, as much as like a year ago today, when we received our letter back from the tax levy that we applied for, they gave us the bare bones minimum because they determined that the things that we needed were not actual needs. And so I'm a little worried about what would happen, with deepest respect to the people, the community members and taxpayers. I'm a little concerned that we may be giving up a lot more than we have control over if we don't get this done in order to step forward like Ms. Devine has suggested.
I want to acknowledge that, Sharon, what you're articulating is that the reality of us not coming together is someone else who doesn't know you, does not want to hear what you have to say, will be making decisions for us. And I strongly believe this entire board is not here to allow that to happen. And so we are going to stay focused on the task at hand and hold ourselves accountable. It is fair to push and to do this differently. How we do this, keep pushing, but I am going to strongly advocate and articulate what I believe we've all consistently said. We are not in the position or so far apart that we are willing to let the state take over. If we are there, we will be here a long time, because we need to really give every ounce of who we are. If we believe the state, who is frankly the boogeyman of the calculation we can't offer, the control over our district is really just not an optimal position, and I think we all can agree that is not where we will end, and there's still room to not have everybody say yes. That is true. That is true. That is a fact. So we can pass this budget and folks can still say, I do not agree with the how you are getting to balanced budget. And then the next time we meet and when we continue to meet, we need to keep having those conversations, because it's about the how at this point. We all believe and know we need a balanced budget. And the outcome of today is that we believe that there needs to be a balanced budget.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, Stacey. Yes, I just want to add just a point of clarity for those in the room. The balanced budget is approved. And so I think that we want to make sure that we're extremely clear with roles and responsibilities. Boards of education their fiduciary and statutory responsibilities to make sure that schools are being well run. They identify the what, not the how. The state has approved the budget effective April 20th, and so the budget is balanced. I would caution us from getting so deep in the weeds that we move outside of our ethical responsibility in the how, because for one reason and one reason only, we have a contractual obligation to all of our employees, which is roughly 400 employees, to make sure that we issue employee contracts by May 15th, or this board will have an entirely different problem to deal with, which will far financially exceed lease agreements, technology purchases, and so on and so on. And so I just wanted to caution us, we are continually looking for ways to generate revenue, to add margin back within the budget. It will not necessarily translate into additional positions saved, but what it will do is it will put us on a better path to make sure that we're able to actually deliver everything that we have planned for this particular budget with no hiccups. You heard Mr. Burns talk about the first line that we went through, which we shared with this board on numerous occasions, was to look at things, not people. And so contingencies, we removed contingencies because we place greater value on people. We removed equipment because we place greater value on people. We removed a full-scale curriculum, for one, with fewer individuals. We don't want to overburden our staff any more than they're already burdened. Our staff are working incredibly hard across all categories, and so we wanted to be a bit more measured because we can run schools without extra things. We can't run schools without people. And so we made significant reductions in all things that did not touch people first, and it just wasn't enough. I want to also just say that two things can be true. We can all agree that there are no good options, and that we're going to make sure that our kids, that our students, that our staff get what they need. And I just wanted to make sure that I was being extremely clear that where the roles and responsibilities, and so this board, despite not being in agreement, and that is completely within the right of the board, lots of challenges and lots of conversations were held, but this board demonstrated courage in spite of a really challenging, upsetting, frustrating situation. This board did vote to approve the submission of the budget, and the budget has been approved from a financial perspective. Implementation of the budget directly affects 400 staff members. And so I would just respectfully ask for us to focus on the 400 staff members that are impacted by the decisions that we make tonight, and not for us to be so overwhelmed in the things that we are still working on in order to pull out of this budget through partnership and creative finance.
My question is maybe a little too far in the weeds, but if the lease of Good Shepherd comes off like the $70,000 a year and it's reduced greatly, is the priority with that money to bring back a staff position?
I also want to make sure that we are keeping things in the appropriate perspective. And so over the last several years, we have relocated and opened up classroom and space within our schools by moving district staff out of what were traditional classroom spaces across all of our campuses. In the event a school district business office needs an office, and so let's just be really, really clear. The finances related, and so I think that it's really easy for us to have conversations not to minimize any expenditure is still an expenditure. But when we're looking at what is market value for a commercial office space in Collingswood, we have talked with 2 commercial realtors. We would be looking at significantly more than $70,000 should the partnership not move forward in a timely fashion, and should we need to vacate the Good Shepherd in order to get office space. And so I think that all decisions have consequences. And for us to say that our business office will not have an office would be short-sighted. And so I just want to make sure that we're putting all options on the table. It would significantly exceed $70,000 to the tune of somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000 for the same amount of space to support the folks who would be displaced should we decide to make a strategic move.
I do have one question about relative reduction around the special education space, particularly as it pertains to students who have an IEP or other requirements for a certain class or model. How would we balance potential increases in special education needs with positions that have been reduced? Would we just figure it out, or just what would the plan be around that?
So the discussion around special education really affected pull-out replacement positions. This is not to minimize the importance of pull-out replacement. And so there are multiple models for inclusion. One of many models is co-teaching. We are not in a financial position for that to be the sole inclusion model for our district. When we looked at specifically our secondary campus, we had just as many pull-out replacement teachers at our middle school as we did at our high school, despite our high school having double the caseload. And so we were able, with the consolidation of the middle and the high school campus, we were able to remove some of the redundancy in order to save critical positions in other areas.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to Section 5, Future Dates and Miscellaneous Information. I just want to make one correction that I know about on this list. I'm sorry, I was going to do that right before public comment, yeah. The roundtable discussion, thank you, Sarah, that was added this time around. We appreciate that. That is at 6 o'clock, so make a correction that it says 6:30 on here. We're going to start that at 6, and our next roundtable discussion has been set up to be at Sharp Elementary School. We are trying to rotate around the community. And so now we're going to go ahead and approve the minutes at the regular Board of Ed meeting. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular Board of Ed meeting?
I think we need a
I
motion
need to
to
do anything?
close committee of the whole.
I was going to do that right before public comment. We could do that now. That's fine. All right, so I'll make a motion to close committee of the whole, enter exit out of committee of the whole.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Look at me. All right. Now, Section 6, approval of the regular Board of Ed meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And at this time, we're going to have our student report. And our students are here tonight.
All right, good evening, everyone. We did our usual thing of reporting on activities that go throughout the school and the time between the last meeting and this meeting. To start, we had our monthly lunch with the executives of the school, or the Student Council Executive Board had lunch with the administrators. Mr. Klein has been filling in for Mr. Whalen's position in listening to all the students and giving them the answers that they are looking for in those meetings. It was a pretty brief meeting. It kind of circled around the same topics. Some of the things we tried to get through was just like what's going on, like positive wise, and it was sports are doing well. People were happy about spring break. And people are happy it's the last quarter of the year. A lot of students did have questions about unification and the budget deficit. Students want to know what it means for them, what it means for teachers, what it means day to day. That comes with unification and the reductions. I'm going to skip ahead a bit to like tie that in with a specific student from the student polls who gave her name. I won't mention it now, but she did give her name and gave a statement, and it was highlighting that the budget deficit email that went out was only shared with the parents. They mentioned that they believe the students should be informed of what's happening in the future, what's going on with them, like, or what it means for them. Her main message was that students want to be informed, and they feel they have a right to be informed of what's going on with the building and the impacts of stuff going on around them. In general, highlights of what was going on, we had our senior citizens prom with the student council from Miss Whalen. Older citizens of Collingswood come to dance, eat, hang out, have a good time. The students help set up, serve food and drinks, and maybe even dance a little with the senior citizens. AP exams are approaching. They start next week. Parents, if your students are taking the exam, make sure they're well prepared. They've had some studying time, they've had sleep, food, and if they haven't had any of those, give them some coffee. prom tickets are being sold for prom on June 4th. Hopefully that all goes well. State science testing and ELA testing has started this week from Monday through Friday, and this is the first time that juniors get a day off of testing on Friday, which is much appreciated, at least one. Last Friday, the 24th, the Student Council Executive Board helped host the New Jersey State Student Council meeting with our Student Board of Education rep Amelia Reynolds as our representative, and we held it in the library. They had speakers go through all day. That's where they held their general meeting, and I believe it went pretty well throughout the day. Last Thursday, we had the National Language Honor Society inductions for German, French, and Spanish. Students were recognized for their dedication, just like regular honor society, with good grades, participating in that language course for 3 or more years if you're a senior, or 4 or more years as a junior. And then Naeem, did you want to do the?
Oh yeah, so give a mini sports report about boys volleyball. Our team is currently 5-8, led by team captains Juan Flores Sanchez and Kieran Neal. Our varsity captain Kieran Neal recently broke our school's record for most career aces, and junior Tristan Ayala recently got his career high of 100 assists. The boys earlier took a tough loss from Gloucester County Institute of Technology, but hopefully they'll bring home a win Friday against Cinnaminson.
All right, now going on to the rest of the student polls forms. So students were asked about spring sports. Huge shout out to softball this year. A couple of the players said it's going really well. New head coach Ashley Pence. The players are saying they're practicing a lot and improving very well. This year, the softball team with head coach Ashley Pence and Mr. Fieldman as the assistant coach showed up at the Collingswood Little League opening day to be with the future of Collingswood athletics. And it was also special this year that Collingswood Little League opening day also had softball out there on the field. So it was nice that the high school softball players could be a role model for some of the younger softball players. Amelia Reynolds also had a lot to say about track. It's going well. The girls team is 3 for 3. I also heard today that they are on their way to playoffs. Plenty of students are happy with unified sports, and some mentions of the new Collingswood Golf Club that are going well. Not yet a sport, but they run practices and they run scrimmages. So they said they're doing well with that. We all kind of know where this is going with what does it mean for students, and I think we've been asking this for most of this half of the school year. Out of every single response that we had, everyone who responded to the unification topic, every single one of them said or mentioned that they are confused, they are not well informed enough, they don't believe they're well informed enough to know what's about to happen next year. I personally attended some of those meetings. I also couldn't say exactly what it means for the students. And I think this all boils down to the same thing with the budget deficit, is students just want to know. They keep asking to know, they're searching for answers, and it doesn't seem they're getting them. So if there could be a way to relay it to the students, what it could mean, even if it means very little or nothing at all, something to be relayed to them of what is going on. Same thing with the budget deficit. And then last point of the night, which I learned about earlier this week, and I guess I could have saw coming with the cuts, is the Wellness Center funding, and all the positions have been cut. I know that's not for this, it's the general United States government cutting it. Just to talk about how it affects the students is I see plenty of people go through there every day. I attend the quiet lunch to do my work during my lunch period up there, and in that period there is at least 20 students there every day who eat lunch, who enjoy the Wellness Center. I just wanted to mention how unfortunate it is that we have lost it, and for the future, if we can recover from this, and hopefully when we recover from this, to bring those back for the sake of the students. That's everything we have for tonight.
Thank you both so much for being here tonight and always. We appreciate it. We're going to move on now to the superintendent's report.
So good evening again. Section 8.01 is the enrollment report. March of 2025, 2216. March of 2026, 2209. That is attached. 8.02, 03, and 04 are the safety drill, suspension, and anti-bullying report. And I have a few announcements that need to be made. First, starting with what Chris talked about. On Thursday, April 23rd, we honored students who were inducted into the World Languages National Honor Societies, as well as the New Jersey Seal of Biliteracy recipients. All seniors will receive a World Language Honor Cord to wear at graduation this June. Our World Language honorees pledge to maintain high scholastic standing in foreign language in which they are studying, continue to maintain high overall scholastic standing, hold as fundamental, to hold as fundamental and worthy and untarnished character, to endeavor intelligently and courageously to be a leader in the foreign language area, and to continue their interest in the study of language, culture, and civilization, including our very own Mr. Christopher Szymanski, who was inducted into the German National Honor Society on the 23rd. Along with 6 of his classmates in the German program, 8 talented students in the French National Honor Society, 4 in the Spanish National Honor Society, 1 student achieved the New Jersey Seal of Biliteracy in German, and 7 achieved the New Jersey Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Congratulations to all of our multilingual students. This week, a message was sent out to our elementary school community. And so it was sent to all elementary families regarding the school closure. And so we would just like to thank again all of our families for engaging us over the last few weeks. Your passion for your children's education and your willingness to share your perspective with honesty and heart is exactly what makes our school community so special. And so we know that this particular season has brought a huge wave of emotions, reflections, nostalgia, great memories. It has also highlighted a beautiful shared goal of creating the best possible future for every student in Collingswood. And so in order to keep dialogue ongoing and collaborative, we shared resources from all of the elementary meetings, not just the one for Garfield, but also the one at Zane, Sharp, Tatum, and Newby. And so that was sent out to all elementary families first. It will be sent out district-wide at the end of this week. In addition, so in honor of National Autism Acceptance Month, today, Collingswood students in kindergarten through high school celebrated neurodiversity, understanding, and inclusion by participating in the walk that took place at Knight Park. Music played as students walked through the blue and gold balloon arch with their school shirts as they traveled with their peers, their teachers, classroom assistants, parents. Students were dancing, they were running around, they were catching bubbles flying through the air. And so this marks the 4th annual district-wide event organized by our very own Zane teacher, Ms. Kelly Curley, in collaboration with CPAG, which is our Special Education Parent Advisory Group. This serves as a community-building opportunity to spread messages of acceptance, inclusion, and connection. And so today, Ms. Curley shared that my ultimate message for today is to show kindness by accepting and including everyone. And so for more information about autism and advocacy, we'll be sending out resources about how you can continue to support this really important initiative. Tonight, under the guidance of our advisors, Ms. Tosh and Ms. Gillen, Collingswood inducted 50 talented students into the National Junior Honor Society. And so the National Junior Honor Society elevates a school's commitment to the values of scholarship, service, leadership, character, and citizenship, helping middle-level students develop the knowledge and skills to become well-rounded student learners in their schools, their community, and beyond. And so we just would like to publicly congratulate all of our honorees for this outstanding achievement. We also wanted to give a really quick shout out as we continue to celebrate the arts within our community. The arts are really an important part of what makes Collingswood so special. And so we would like to first acknowledge the Collingswood Youth Theater's performance of Finding Nemo Jr. this past weekend. So the talent in our schools continues to not only amaze myself, members of this board, members of our team, but also whenever I tell folks that I live in Collingswood, that is always a point of pride that people will ask you about. And so it is definitely a cherished identity of our community. We'd also like to bring to your attention the annual tradition of Broadway Night, which happens on May 8th and 9th. And so this is where our talented actors and performers and stage people and technicians and musicians, they really get to show what they have been doing for the last several years. Tickets are still available. Please come out to support these amazing young people for Broadway Night. We'd also like to give some public acknowledgement. And so Collingswood participates as a way to save costs in a communications consortium. And so we work alongside districts like Haddon Township, Audubon, Mount Ephraim, and others in order to share and reduce the cost needed for communications support. And so our very own Lori Perlow was honored this year as the 2026 New Jersey Communicator of the Year. And so this prestigious award recognizes exemplary leadership and commitment to enhance communication and relationship building between schools and the stakeholders that they serve. And so among Lori's many accomplishments in the development of the statewide communications consortium, which we also belong to, she consistently demonstrates calm, decisive leadership, particularly in complex or crisis situations. And so Lori has been credited by her peers with preventing issues from escalating by proactively communicating to address concerns before they take hold. In addition to her strategic approach to communication, she partners with districts like Collingswood and our sister district, Oak Glen, for meaningful and impactful storytelling. This manifests on a weekly basis. She provides technical assistance and support to all of the weekly newsletters that come from your schools, the monthly newsletters and district level correspondence that comes from the central office, and ongoing technical assistance, training, support, resources, and media representation, bringing positive news and storytelling about all of the tremendous work that our teachers and our students continue to do every day. Congratulations, Lori. I would also be remiss in not acknowledging at the very back our Collingswood Panther Pantry. This is the mission of the food pantry in the back, to provide individuals within our collective communities with supplemental support in a cheerful, welcoming, confidential, and non-judgmental manner. And so we support this mission through generous donations from staff, from community members like you. And so we are continually accepting non-perishable items as well as cash donations, with all proceeds going to needy Collingswood, Oak Glen, and Woodland families. And so if you feel so compelled, we have bins in the back of every board meeting, and we also have bins at every school. And so thank you to Ms. Niesner, as well as our leader that is representing us in the back, and all of the student representatives that support this really important program. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we are going to go into public comment, and just a reminder, we will not be talking back to people. We are here to listen. We will take notes. We will follow up on the back end, but we will not be responding to public comment. So for public comment, please stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mr. Burns is going to keep time for us. The public is reminded that attempts to resolve all concerns and complaints should first go through appropriate staff members and administrators. Thank you, Roger.
Check. Hi, Thank you. My name's Daniel Whiteoff. Do you need my address? Yeah, 9 West Coulter Avenue, Collingswood. I have a daughter at Garfield. So I just wanted to make a comment about, some of the questions that were being raised. Why is it that, eyebrows get raised to central admin salaries and positions when it comes to making cuts like this? So, it was said that running a school is a business. To the parents, it's not a business. Okay? To my child, it's not a business. And if you want to think about it as a business, it's a numbers game then. So you look at the central admin salaries, sometimes even just for administrative assistant positions, and if they're in the 80,000s, or positions like a special assistant to a superintendent at 150,000, and our teachers who are with our children every day, enriching their minds, managing their emotions, teaching them to be good little human beings, making that direct impact. It could take them 15, 20 years to make that much money. So I understand there's an emotional response and a sense that you want to defend those administrative positions. Surely you can understand a parent's position and the instinct to jump in and defend those teachers and want to save as many of those jobs as possible. I do appreciate that you saved 3 student-facing positions. I think a lot of us were hoping to see more of that and taking a look at more of the granular spending of where that's going. My last point I would make is if the goal is to bring teachers back and to rebuild, I think you should come up with a way of quantifying where these layoffs and rifts happen when it's non-tenured staff. I think that everything should be considered from your years of service, even though you're not tenured, your evaluations, so where your scores are in relation to others. And I think that there needs to be some sort of policy put into place for that, especially if our situation isn't going to improve and we're going to see these cuts in the future, because I can guarantee you we are losing really, really good teachers right now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Tanier, and I've been a teacher at the high school since 1998. And I, first of all, do want to thank you. This is a thankless job that you're all doing right now, and it's incredibly difficult. But we do live on the day-to-day granular basis. We live with the tears and the chaos and the wonder and the joy of our job. And I'm just speaking, while I know you're interested, I'm really speaking to the parents behind me and the ones who are listening at home. Under the New Jersey CA Special Education 6A subsection 14, all special education programs and services must be provided by appropriately certified and qualified professional staff. But due to the rifts across the secondary campus, including 4 special education teachers, there appears to be no mathematical way the district will be able to staff certified teachers in-class support positions next year, given the new mathematical realities of the reduced certified staff, and without a concrete plan, which the district has been unable to provide at this time, despite having already informed the certified staff members that they will not be coming back next year. The only option the district appears to have at this time is to staff in-class support positions with non-certified, untrained personnel from the educational staffing services. While ESS personnel are kind and compassionate, at the secondary level, the lack of specific content knowledge and no training in emotional, behavioral, or learning interventions will put all of our students at risk. While this move, the only one it appears is mathematically possible, given the information that has been shared with us by the district level administrator so far, will save district money. It will come nowhere near to the cost of the almost $400,000 a year we are paying to 3 assistant superintendents who have no student contact. If you are a special ed parent, I want to let you know that there are options. I have a couple of handouts with phone numbers I'll be happy to give you. But if you are concerned that your child will be impacted, contact your school administrator. Talk to the principal and let them know that if your child is supposed to have a certified teacher in an in-class support system, they should be. Then you should request in writing a meeting to look at that IEP to make sure they have not altered the language to allow them to remove certified staff from in-class support and replace them with adults. You have also the right as parents to refuse to sign the IEP and to go to mediation that can be dealt with by the state. If you need that information, you can contact the Office of Special Education and speak to the omnibusman who helps parents navigate the system and understand their rights regarding services and state laws. I have the phone number here if you want them from me. You can also contact the Disability Rights of New Jersey, and they can help you navigate these issues as well. The only people who are going to be able to save our children are us. And I know you are doing the best you can, but somebody with 60 credits cannot walk into a math classroom with a child who is dealing with anxiety and emotional distress and help them when they don't even know the math content on the board, let alone the emotional triggers that might not just disrupt their learning, but the learning of the whole class. Thank you very much. If you need this information, I'll be happy to give it to you. You can raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Grant Knutson. I live on 120 East Madison. I was coming here because I think with all the people from Garfield being split into bits and pieces, I would be okay. I make friends easily. Not everyone will. Some people don't. It's hard and they need long relationships with people. Also, the class sizes are going to be pretty big, and it's we can struggle having 25 people in our class, but having around over 30 is just way too much, I think, and it's hard to get around. The teacher can try, but we don't have the budget for all of these helper teachers to help, and then if there's just one teacher if one or maybe two occasionally tries to help in a 30-plus class, they won't learn as much as if the classes were a lot smaller. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Knutson. That is my son, Grant. We live at 120 East Madison Avenue. I've been a parent for a student at Garfield for many years. My older daughter had graduated there a few years ago. And a couple of the things I wanted to say specifically around these questions that have come up around town and community involvement. Years ago, before COVID, there was the equity committee meeting. I think in the Garfield session that we had a couple weeks ago, there was a question of okay, well, there's never a referendum that has ever passed. So I wanted to clarify something that as part of the equity committee, there was I don't know if you can call it a referendum, but there was a budgetary item that came directly out of the equity committee to help support mental wellness that was approved by the town. Why it perhaps was approved by the town was because it was formed by town members. The equity committee was something that had school board members involved, had teachers involved. They met every month. You said that this is a crisis. This isn't a crisis, and then you mentioned it's like crisis that is not new. And you mentioned that this is a business, although it's not really a business. For someone that works for major corporations for my job, if you have a real crisis, you would want to be meeting every week. I stood up and talked during the Garfield meeting that I'm angry. I'm angry because this seemed to come out of nowhere. The charts that you're showing do not showcase that it came out of nowhere. There was a referendum last year that didn't pass, that came sort of out of nowhere, I don't know, to be able to solve these issues. I don't think that would have solved the issue in the long run. So if you're saying that there are other alternative ideas, Mr. Chu, I don't know. I don't see them. I don't know where they are. Maybe they're in these meetings. Maybe they're not. Are you meeting every month? I don't know. Are you meeting every week? Are you meeting every week with community involvement? Not really, in my opinion. Not that any of the Garfield families have been invited to. We have a lot of ideas. We come to the open forums. My son and I have come to school board meetings. We don't really feel like the ideas that are coming out of these sessions really represent the town. Our town doesn't want to not vote for education. Our town wants to support what is best for our students. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Isaac Mendelson, and I'm the program evaluator and school social worker for the Wellness Center here at the Collingswood Middle and High School. In case you have not heard from tonight and before, the Wellness Center, my position in all general education mental health services for both the middle and high school have been terminated. As you can imagine, I am understandably upset about losing my position. However, my far greater concern is what this decision means for the future of our school system. This is not a minor issue. It is a serious and immediate risk for the students' well-being. Over the past 3 years, the Wellness Center has provided critical, clinical, behavioral, and therapeutic support to hundreds of students and their families. Each day, we respond to 3 to 5 student walk-ins and manage up to 5 mental health crises every week and carry an active caseload of more than 100 students. To be clear, a mental health crisis is not simply a student having a bad day. It is a situation in which a student's thoughts, emotions, or behaviors become so overwhelming that they pose an immediate risk to themselves or others, or are unable to function safely in the school environment. This loss of this support will not be theoretical. It will have immediate and serious consequences for the students who rely on it. These are not someone else's children. They are our children, my children. As a father of 2 students in the school system, I am outraged and deeply troubled by what feels like a blatant disregard for student well-being. Yes, we all recognize there is a budget crisis, but moments like this reveal who we are and what we truly value. If we cannot protect and prioritize our children's mental health now, when it matters most, then what does that say about us as a community? We have to confront this honestly. Are we willing to stand by while critical support systems are stripped away, or will we finally treat our children's well-being as the non-negotiable priority it should be? Because the reality is this: when we fail to act, the consequences do not fall on budget sheets or balances. They fall on our children. And once the harm is done, no explanation, no justification, and no future correction will undo it. If we choose inaction now, we are choosing those consequences. So what's the ask? As our children's mental health services are being cut, I am left asking a few simple but urgent questions. Is protecting our children's mental health something we are willing to invest in or not? What non-student facing positions are being prioritized and funded instead of these services? And why are they being considered more important than direct support for our children? And finally, the most difficult question of all, does this board and district leadership truly care enough about the well-being of our students to make different choices? Thank you.
My name is Mark Fileri, 126 Fraser, proud Tatum parent. I come in with a finance background, and I've spent more hours looking into the district's budget, surrounding district's budgets, the borough's budget, surrounding borough's budgets than I care to admit. As I'm sure the district feels, there's no more blood to squeeze from the stone in this budget. I can assure you there's not much left to squeeze on the borough side as well. Everyone's dealing with the same issues, and to echo Mr. Chu's comments earlier, the solution always comes down to more money. I know we keep pointing to the state funding formula as the boogeyman that's broken. The solution that we're all advocating for and calling congressmen and writing to assemblymen is to fix the district's inability to unilaterally raise taxes by only 2%. The end result is still more tax dollars. If the district could raise taxes by 10%, it would, and we would be paying more tax dollars. So with that in mind, I'm struggling to understand why we have not had operating referendums every single year put in front of us. This has been coming for 10 years. It's been obvious since COVID, and we're hearing about maybe wanting one in the fall, but why do I have to hear about this on the tail of Garfield closing, losing 20+ teachers and staff, special education cut, mental health cuts? Like, why are we hearing about these comments on the tail of all of these cuts and not in support of a referendum to prevent these cuts? You talk about fiduciary responsibility. That is an absolute failure of that responsibility. Thank you.
My name is Zachary Wright. I live at 106 Fern Avenue. I have 2 children in the Collingswood School District, and I am the MTSS coordinator for the secondary campus, a key student-facing role for the middle and high school. I just want to give some background as to what this role does and what it will no longer be able to do after this year. This year, the MTSS coordinator's office made an average of 20 phone calls home every single morning, reaching out to every single student who had missed more than 1 consecutive day at school at the middle and high school. It is in no small part the reason why we have some of the best attendance metrics we've had since COVID. This year, the MTSS coordinator's office facilitated INRS meetings and referrals and scheduled dozens of family meetings for students in danger of not earning credit due to attendance or failing grades, ensuring that no student fell through the cracks or were forgotten. This year, the MTSS coordinator's office steered the entire NJ Sky Climate Survey process, ensuring that we got hundreds of staff, students, and family responses on how to improve our school climate, then presented the data to this very board, and collaborated with all school building leaders on how to use the data to improve their school's culture climate. The MTSS coordinator's office built relationships with local businesses, then the Collingswood Rotary, to explore creating new career-centered internship programs and to create incentive programs to reward Collingswood students with rewards like free slices of pizza for good grades and attendance. The MTSS coordinator's office built a partnership with Stockton University to offer a new dual enrollment course called Tomorrow's Teachers that would allow juniors and seniors to earn college credit while exploring becoming our next generation's teachers. In addition, the MTSS Coordinator's Office partnered with the Center for Black Educator Development to offer paying jobs for our high school juniors and seniors to support summer learning programs in Philadelphia this coming summer, while exploring the potential of hosting a summer learning experience here in Collingswood. This past Friday, it was confirmed that the MTSS Coordinating Office would be cut, with no plan put forth whatsoever to address all that this office has done. I'm not angry anymore. I'm really sad. And what I would ask this board to do is ensure that the work that has been done this year is done by someone else, whoever that may be, next year. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Eric Nelson. I'm the father of a child at Garfield. Live at 5 West Narberth Terrace. I have many things written down from tonight. Feeling a lot of emotions that I think many people in this room are feeling: disappointment, sadness, frustration, confusion. We've heard things that leave me wondering as a parent about the future of this district, about whether or not this is the district that is best for my family, for my children. My son is in kindergarten at Garfield this year, and he was blessed with a wonderful kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Davis, who's in the back of the room tonight. We were not really sure what to expect. Our first son in kindergarten, coming to a school that we didn't know much about. But Mrs. Davis, from day one, has loved our son and his friends, his classmates so well. She's been so dedicated, so committed to those students. And so when we heard the news that she was losing her job, it broke our hearts. Losing Garfield as a school, as a community, hurts. Losing people hurts more, because the people make the place. And so when we hear about Mrs. Davis no longer being part of our Garfield and Collingswood community, it breaks our hearts, and we know that we're letting our children down when we lose teachers like that. Now, speaking to just some of the larger issues here, I think about what we've heard from many people tonight, what we've heard from students tonight. There's so much confusion around where we're headed with things. And it's hard to see a bright future and the excellent education that Collingswood promises to provide to our students. It's hard to know if I can trust that reality as a parent. I know we've had to, the board, you've had to make very, very difficult decisions. That's been made abundantly clear, that these budget issues, so much of them are outside of our control. But I think there's also a real issue of trust. And I know there's a lot of school districts that are facing budget issues. And I think the budget stuff is so important, but we need to be able to trust the district. And we need to be able to trust that this is a place where we can send our kids, where they can learn, where they can receive an excellent education, where the burden's not just going to be placed on whatever teachers are left, because that's not fair to those teachers, as great as they might be. And as somebody who works at a school where people have come from Collingswood, not because they've had to leave, but because for them, they couldn't stay here because of loss of trust, that is very real, and it's a difficult thing for us to deal with. And so, once again, I'm just speaking out of a place of confusion and hurt and a desire to believe in this district. And I don't know if I can do that right now.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl DeVito. I'm at 136 New Jersey Avenue. I'm up here today as I'm employed in the school district. I live and pay taxes in Collingswood and have kids in both the elementary and middle school. I came tonight just like every other person concerned about the state of our district. I'd like to begin with my mom heart concerns. First, we're a Tatum family, but we're gutted for the Garfield families who have to navigate a new school, a new routine, and brand new teachers. We're also, at Tatum and the rest of the district, we're all bracing for a new school year as class sizes grow, which per the recent SMORE update regarding classroom size maximum is best described as the limit does not exist, despite being told differently a week ago. And that travels up to the high school. Dr. McDowell, just this evening, you said you were working in the best interest of staff and students, but I don't know how that's possible with larger class sizes and reduced staff. And now my taxpayer brain. I want to know why we are just being presented with a problem and not options or a vote to try and fix it, or better, avoid it next year. We were just told that Garfield was closing, that we were just laying off several of our amazing teachers, which will directly impact our kids' learning. I also remember that a fact finder was brought in last year. Where are the results? If our tax dollars help fund the fact finding, shouldn't we be privy to the findings? And now my support staff brain and heart are going to speak. I work at Tatum. We are the overflow school. Are we going to remain the overflow school even when we're overflowed? My Tatum heart is broken as the unlisted teachers as the unlisted names of teachers were presented and their positions were just provided. I work closely with some of these people. Jen Conley, or Jen Andrews, I work with her daily and have seen her move the needle in education more in the last 6 months than in the last 2 to 3 years. I worry about those kids who built relationships with her who now need to meet their third pull-out resource teacher in 4 years. I worry about all of our kids in overcrowded classrooms. Our current kindergarten group is practically maxed out in regards to space and resources. My niece has loved coming to school every day in Riley Eamon's room. And as a seasoned 4th grade parent and with an incoming 4th grader next year, again, I am just gutted with these cuts. I understand times are tight. I understand the state of New Jersey apparently doesn't understand how to appropriately fund public schools. It's frustrating because I learn more each and every year as we continue to end up in the same situation and in the same meetings. So moving forward, I would love to know how we can move potentially the 47% to 50%. I just want to know how we can help the borough and how the borough can help us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mindy Lair. I live at 12 West Narberth Terrace. I have a daughter that is a kindergartner in Mrs. Davis' class at Garfield. I also am a business owner here, and before I go into my written statement, I just want to say that I do think, Maggie, as per that we've taken too much out of the businesses with dine and donates and that. I disagree with that. I think, and I've already kind of put it in my head as leading businesses to say, like, how can we add revenue? People from outside of Collingswood come to our town to eat, well, not to drink, to eat, to BYOB. You know, they come to the Mayfair, they come to things, they come to my spot. I have tons of clients and people that purchase from Red Dog Designs that majority of my people are not from Collingswood. I have a ton of Collingswood, but we made over $2 million last year, not in Collingswood. So I think I will be leading business people to, put something on the end of their bill after a night of drinking and eating at Zeppeli, writing a 25% tip because my waitress was awesome, and hey, $20 extra I can donate to the Collingswood schools. I think a lot of people would do that, and I think a lot of the businesses would jump on board with that. That was my spiel that just came up, but and here's what I wrote. Mrs. Glover, Mrs. Robbins, Mrs. Rader, Mrs. Warner, Ms. Cohen, and Mr. Cleveland. These are the names of my elementary school teachers, grades 1 through 5. You may notice there are 6 names. 5 of them were amazing teachers that I loved, memorable because they left imprints on little girl's heart and mind and sent me on grade after grade with a desire to learn the next thing. My 5th grade teacher, Ms. Cohen, was my homeroom teacher. I'll remember her name because she's the one teacher in my elementary school that didn't treat us with care or compassion, that didn't make me feel safe, and the first teacher that made me feel like not going to school. Now the last name, Mr. Cleveland, he was the other 5th grade teacher connected, and his room was connected to Mrs. Cohen's. Daily, I would sneak through the 1-foot space in the partition to go join his class in an empty chair he started leaving for me daily. I'll never forget any of them, as they were a crucial part of my first memories of school. Recess, the library, gym class, math, science, reading, making lifelong friends that I still call today when I go home to Colorado. They were the first adults besides my parents that I learned from and looked up to. It's been 42 years since I started elementary school, and I can remember each and every one of those names. My wife, Abby, and I teach our daughter to embrace experiences, have a voice, speak up for what she believes in, build relationships, learn from disappointments and mistakes, love hard, and learn each and every day. We ask her that she gives her best, whatever her best is on any given day. Our hope is that Lachlan and her classmates are provided by this board the best of the best teachers to teach them. Her kindergarten year is nearly over. When we tell her there's a possibility she may not see Ms. Davis in the hallways of school next year, and she asks why, it leaves a pit in my stomach and a little hole in my heart. It stings to know that there's a possibility our son won't be taught by the dedicated, caring, and qualified Mrs. Davis. I use the word possibility because I do have hope that the right decisions will be made by you to keep our best teachers in our schools. And maybe, just maybe, Lachlan will see her first teacher in the hallways. And maybe, just maybe, in 2 years, our son might be placed in a Collingswood elementary school that is fortunate enough to still have Chrissy Davis teaching in its halls. I hope in 42 years, our kids can remember the names of the teachers that taught them. On behalf of my wife, my kids, and our extended Garfield family, I strongly urge you to do everything possible to keep Chrissy Davis in the Collingswood School District.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Mike Muller, 509 Dwight Avenue. I have one student in Sharp Elementary and another just 18 months away, shockingly already. I want to just thank the board for a comment made earlier in the evening that we're all working towards the same goal. We legitimately all do want the same things. I simply urge a little bit more elasticity in the solutions to some of the crises we are facing, and a little bit more auditory attention to the community at large. Now, we all know that a school district is not a business. To legitimately think so would be a horribly cynical worldview. But with that in mind, I would like to just read a prepared statement on the possible financial ramifications down the road of not making the right decisions in the coming months. So, when districts reduce mental health services, special education supports, or inclusion staffing, the savings are often short-term, while the academic and legal costs become long-term. Cutting specialized support does not eliminate student need. Instead, it just shifts the burden to general education teachers. It increases compliance risks, and those often result in higher costs through compensatory services, outside placements, due process claims, and student failure. Reactionary saving for the short term without any kind of strategy isn't efficiency, and it isn't smart. All it is deferred cost. If we cut mental health services, if we cut special education teachers, true inclusion support, we're not reducing needs. All we're doing is increasing our risks. And whether you're a school district or a business, that can be disastrous. Thank you.
Joan Smith, 14 Garfield Avenue. I'm a former Garfield parent, and looking at the page that was left on our chairs today, I noticed there are at least $400,000 worth of administrative salaries that could be cut. Last year, we solidly defeated the referendum closing 2 elementary schools. The district has been told by the residents time and again, we want our neighborhood schools to remain. Another thing I have a question about is out-of-district placements. How much do we spend on transportation for those out-of-district placements? It's much cheaper to bring in a special education teacher or 2 or 3 than pay for transportation costs for 1 or 2 students. Because when I was on the board, transporting one student could cost $40,000 a year. And also, on another note, I would also like you to bring back the computer teacher for 9th grade. That's a no ask. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. First, I wanted to thank you guys for the presentations at the elementary schools.
Could you give us your name?
Oh, hi. I'm Allie Hegley. My address is 405 Cedar Avenue. I just assumed everybody already knew me, but that's a me problem. Hi. So thank you for the elementary school presentations. I thought that I went to the one at Zane North where my 3rd grader goes, and the turnout, like the strong turnout and engagement, it's just like fills my heart to see such strong family engagement. So we're definitely doing great there. And I thought that your presentation was provided clear context and gave families an opportunity to be heard, which is very important. So I just wanted to start by thanking you for that. Also, the autism walk today was absolutely awesome, so thank you for everybody that was involved with that. The closure of Garfield and these staff cuts affect everyone here tonight. But I am asking for us to consider the negative impacts of reducing special education support, positions, or people, if we're delineating there. Special education cuts will have a negative impact on all students. General education teachers are not trained to provide the differentiated instruction. They can provide accommodations, but without support from the trained instructional assistants, those accommodations cannot be implemented with fidelity. Larger class sizes with more diverse learning needs and less support is not sustainable. As the gen ed classrooms stretch their capacity at the elementary schools, grade level seats must be kept available to students in more restrictive placements. So kids that are in certain grade levels that are in a self-contained placement right now, class size cannot become a barrier to access for our most vulnerable students, and creating a barrier to access to the least restrictive environment for them and impeding inclusion opportunities is a real concern. At the secondary level, our students with IEPs access the general ed and even AP classes thanks to push-in support from in-class resource teachers, ICR, that's the co-teaching that was mentioned earlier tonight. This support meets a higher level of need than ICS or in-class support, which can be provided by anyone, but less support than POR, pull-out replacement, which is a more restrictive placement. Without ICR, in-class resource support, or co-teaching, students who need more than ICS may require a change to a more restrictive placement, like POR. Placement changes cannot be made without IEP meetings, and our students are entitled by law to the supports in their IEPs in the least restrictive environment. This district is making itself liable to non-compliance and state complaints if we have students whose needs cannot be met with these proposed reductions. And more than that, we aren't being true to our core value of inclusion and student outcomes if our staffing decisions result in limiting access to LRE. We cannot backslide on this progress that's been made. Please consider the real impact of reducing special education positions on the overall school community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Marzolino, and I live at 1103 Stokes Avenue. I want to preface what I'm about to say by letting you know that I did get permission from my student to share this information. I'm here tonight to share my personal experience with the special education teachers in our district. I have a 6th grader and a sophomore. Thank you. Both with IEPs. My sophomore is scheduled to take 2 AP classes and 1 honors class next year. She also happens to be autistic with learning disabilities and struggled to read in the 4th grade. Her schedule will also include tutorial and in-class support for math, co-teaching. She is successful academically not only because she has a relentless work ethic, but because she's had phenomenal teachers. Mrs. Rothwell in pre-K, Miss Abrams in elementary, Mrs. Janko, Mr. Kelsch, and Mr. Pierce in middle school, and now Miss Muller at CHS. Experienced, certified, and dedicated special education teachers that provide her with specialized accommodations. College was not on my radar. Coping with learning differences, a chaotic school environment, and getting through the day was her focus until she realized her potential as a student. She was given the tools and opportunity to successfully navigate learning. College is now on her radar. Providing access to appropriate public education is not simply providing a chair. It is providing skilled accommodations that teach a student to live their full potential, which in turn creates access to opportunity that changes the course of their lives. I respectfully ask you to consider the far-reaching impact of the changes that you are considering with specific regard to co-teaching resources. And please honor and support the services our students are legally entitled to receive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Salmon. I live at 106 Fern Avenue. I have 2 boys in the district, and tonight has actually been a lot more heart-wrenching than I ever thought it was going to be coming here. And really, Dr. McDowell, I'm speaking to you because you really are our leader of this district, and people have come up here from the community to really bare their heart and souls, and I'm asking you, you have an impossible job. I'm looking at our country, this world, everything happening. I am a mother that's going to bed at night thinking, am I living in the right place? Should I sell my house? Should I move? Are our kids going to be okay? I'm asking you, even for these people you're letting go, to go talk to them. See what they do on a day-to-day basis. See the kids they affect. You two are so wonderful. You sat here and you spoke about how you want to know what's happening with the middle school and high school, coming together. What's going to happen to your mental health center? Where are you going to eat lunch? I have huge concerns. We talked about reduction of mental health services in the middle and high school. Who is going to provide mental health services to our kids who are post-pandemic or living in a very crazy time? I never thought after moving to Collingswood from Philadelphia with an autistic child and really thinking this was the best place I could be. This was the place to be. This was our town. We have a beautiful elementary school at Tatum. It's really difficult to be here and think this is an amazing town and I don't know that we're in the right place for our schools. So what I'm asking you, I know you are busy. I know administration is busy, to go reach out to people directly to see how they are affecting the students. You guys are the most important thing to us. They're people, and the people who work with you daily and are on the front line. And I think administration's important. I work in a hospital. I'm a nurse practitioner. There's multiple levels. These stories are heart-wrenching. And these kids are going to be affected. They all hear it. Even the ones who are 8, 9, 10. Why can't I go to my high school? Is it not good enough? My teacher's leaving. They all hear it. So what I ask for you is transparency, collaboration with parents, asking really what matters to us the most, and talking to the kids and letting them know what's going on and kind of helping us understand what will happen for our MTS coordinator. And he is my husband, so I am saying that he's amazing and he's such a positive force, and I was so mad at him for wanting to work in our community and he wanted to change things. He's a change agent and the kids love him, so I'm devastated. I told him, get out of here, go make more money somewhere else, but he wanted to stay in our district. And even for our mental health services, I'm just really concerned. And I just really want you to be able to listen. And I know you're a community member as well, but really be able to listen to the kids and the parents, because this is going to be really, really difficult for everybody. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Abigail Braddock, and for the 2024 to 2025 school year, I was the Collingswood Middle School and High School Wellness Center intern. As a young woman coming into a new district, I came in with Mr. Mendelson, a director of the center, an MTSS coach, and an ABA specialist. Little by little throughout the year, I watched those people and those positions go away. I answered questions like, where is Miss Olexi? And wait, was this Mr. Blake's last day? It felt like over and over again. Every day, I single-handedly watched the Wellness Center fall apart. And day after day, our beloved students kept coming back. I heard tonight that we need to invest in our town. How can we invest in our town without mental health that affects student grades, jobs, families that give back to our town? I also heard that the students need to get what they need. They need resources, they need quiet lunch, they need support, they need IEPs, and they need 504s. They need MTSS coaches that are not stretched thin, and they need a school psychologist. The issues that the Wellness Center and Mr. Mendelson deal with are real. Our students' issues are real. It is of my opinion, and also several of your students that have spoke to me, that this is a punch in the face. They don't care about us. As I am currently being taught to make young people feel better, what do I say to them? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jody Farrow, and I live at 911 Park Avenue. And I know basically everybody up here too. The first thing I want to say is I appreciate Dr. McDowell giving a shout out to the PTAs for everything that we do, because I serve with Zakia, Meredith, continuously with Megan, with Kelly, with Maggie, and big plug for joining the PTAs, guys, because I'm a big proponent of education. The experience of it has to have magic, and I'm coming from a different perspective, and I have my oldest is a senior this year, and it is utterly the most, like I keep saying, it is getting a front row seat to watch magic unfold. And the most wonderful thing was that I got to curate that, and I got to fundraise a significant amount for that too. But big plug for that, and please, we need more people to do that, and shout out to all of you guys for doing that forever too, because that, I think, is the thing that actually changes the educational experience. And that leads me into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is that I really think this ties into the culture of what's going on. And Zakia, you know I love you to death, but when you responded to Meg and you said, hey, we can't differentiate different positions, one's student-facing, one's not. I get that we are all student supporting, but going back to that original slide, pie chart, whatever, where it showed the reduction in students enrolled in this district, specifically in the high school. This is something, again, I have a senior, and I also have a sophomore at Paul VI, and there's a reason I have a sophomore at Paul VI. And I will, on my deathbed, be crying that they're not in high school together. But I have an 8th grader who's coming here next year, partly because my taxes got raised $6,000, which I would give even more than that. But the problem is we need to give people hope that the tax money is going to find its way actually to student-facing things, which comes back to the teachers. As somebody who's been on the PTA, I probably have the cell phone number of every single teacher that I deal with. And they are the most wonderful people ever. That is why people come here. But that's also why people are leaving when you talk directly to teachers who are like, what is the point? If only things were slightly changing. But the fact of the matter is that if we, 4 years ago, got ahead of the devolution of people in our district just whittling away, then we wouldn't be paying tuition to the tech schools. We wouldn't be paying busing to those. We would be keeping just so much talent in everything in district. That's the basic thing there. But then I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Mendelson, because my 6th grader, when he was in 3rd grade, he had a 3rd grade teacher who she got riffed 2 years ago, and then she was amazingly brought back, and that was the best decision that the district ever made, Ruth Elias. She's teaching at Zane North. She hooked him up with Mr. Mendelson, who did so much for my child and was ahead of the game, and now he, in 6th grade, has basically controlled ADHD and is at the top of his class in everything. But between Ruth and Isaac, they changed his trajectory. And also, to another shout out to Zach, because I have a stupid senior who kept lying about his yonder pouch. And you know what? Zach cared enough to call, and then we had all of these conversations about what is it that we can do to get things like going with busing and things like that. But that's the cool thing about Collingswood, is that we have people who individually care on personal levels. But when we talk about data, people are out. And the fact of the matter is that the proof is in the pudding. If we keep losing people, it's not okay. And I have to tell you, if you keep your seniors, and by the time you have a senior, it is beautiful. Cara Boiler is right there. We've been doing it together forever, and it has been just the most wonderful thing. And I'm so happy to be here, and I want to keep continuing this. But you have to give us hope that this ends somewhere, because this has been 4 straight years of these type of meetings. When does it end? There has to just be a clear, concise plan. And also, to one other thing, if the borough is going to be buying Good Shepherd and giving it to you, then why are they just not having it now? Give them the lease, make them pay the 70 grand. I don't understand. We have to have a rationale of what we're doing. It has to make sense for people, but we want to be here, and we love this place, and I love the experience that my kids have had, and I appreciate everybody so much. Really, really, really do. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Shannon Springer. I live at 512 Dwight Avenue. I just want to take a second to talk about Garfield and thank the Mr. Wiltsey, the staff, the teachers. My daughter went through all of her years of elementary school at Garfield, and they made a huge impact on her. As a matter of fact, this year, her first day of middle school, at the end of the day when I picked her up, first word she said to me was, "Mom, can I go to Garfield? I want to see Mr. Wiltsey. I want to see my teachers." And she was not the only student that did that. Pretty much 80% of that class, if not more, were there. And I'm heartbroken that she won't have that ability to do that in the future. And that those students that are there today, that they are now having to go to other schools and build new communities. And it just, I'm heartbroken. I have to say, with all due respect, the administrators, these positions here, they don't have that same impact on my daughter that the teachers did, that the staff in the school did, and having a building as well that we're not fully sure what we're going to do with also does not impact my daughter. So thank you, Garfield. We loved you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Adams, a member of the Collingswood High School Counseling Department. I've had the pleasure of working with many great professionals over the course of my 20 years in public education in the state of New Jersey. Mr. Zach Wright and Mr. Isaac Mendelson have been 2 of the finest. These 2 professionals have made such a huge impact on our district in such a short period of time. Yonder Wolf, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure he's smiling behind me, that's the nickname Mr. Wright was given by our students. And if you don't know, a nickname that is positive means you've done great things. For clarification purposes, the Wellness Center grant that is no longer available was ballparked at roughly $900,000. It is important to understand that everyone whose position was paid for by that grant, with the exception of Mr. Mendelson, has either left the district or been reassigned to a position that is not tied to the Wellness Center grant. In order for our Wellness Center to live on, it only requires the salary of Mr. Isaac Mendelson, 1 salary, 1 person to serve hundreds. The room is already established. The furniture supplies have already been accounted for. Mr. Mendelson and I use that room every single day during Flex to run our groups. He uses it every second to run his one-on-ones in his small groups. Isaac is the wellness team, a social worker with an immense caseload who is able to provide for so many. On top of that, and a little-known fact is that Mr. Mendelson also oversees social work interns, one who spoke here this evening, free mental health services, trained by a professional, a 2-for-1, so to speak, good business practice. We have seen great success with our intern, Mr. George Collimer, and there's many more to come if we keep the position. Isaac is right. We need to prioritize. We need to understand that we are experiencing the highest level of mental health crisis that we have ever seen, and knowing that we are removing the services best to combat that is not best practice ever. We need to find a way to keep Mr. Isaac Mendelson, as many of the employees as we can. Mr. Zachary Wright, they are the ones that make the change and the difference. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Palucci. I am a teacher here at the high school and a parent in town, and I'm also part of the CEA. I'm a CEA rep. I understand and I appreciate all of you for putting the time in as volunteers to make these difficult decisions. There's no scenario that doesn't have some pain attached to it. There's none, right? There's none given the circumstances that do not include some kind of pain from somewhere. And it's terrible, and we're not the only ones going through it. You know, it is statewide. People have talked about the national situation, which is a mess. You know, we have a Secretary of Education at the federal level whose job is to destroy the Department of Education. That doesn't bode well for any of us. We have a state with a lot of small districts and trouble keeping up funding all of them. But I do want people to understand, I want people in the community to understand that there are adults in the room. You know, I feel like sometimes, you know, the tone implies that the people who work in the schools don't understand that these things are tough, and I'm not saying anyone here thinks that, but people know. People who work with the kids, they know. They know the value of the positions district-wide. Like, we know, and they know. And you can't, you know, I've been here for 20 years as a teacher. I've worked here for 20 years. I haven't lived here for 20 years, but I've worked here for 20 years. I have not seen a professional make an impact, a positive impact, in as short a period of time as I have with Zach Wright in my entire 20 years. And when you're watching someone like that who's just getting started, and also, if we knew this was coming year after year, you know, we hired him, and then a year later, you know, he does all this work, and now what happens to that? We're cutting from the bone here at the high school and in a lot of other places in the district. And to watch, you know, Mr. Wright leave, to watch someone like Mr. Mendelson leave, a true professional, I see it. We all see it, and we know. And so we really have to reflect on the decisions that are being made within the external circumstances that we all understand are real. But there is not one set of decisions to be made within that framework, and I think we need to ask ourselves, all of us, if we're making the best decision given that framework. And I just want to say to all of the people who are unfortunately losing their jobs at this time, you know, that we support you and that we will continue to support you. And thank you for everything that you've done. Thanks.
This is probably going to take me a while. How do you do this? Is this one? Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, that's better at least. Okay. Hi, my name is Robin Hogan. I'm the president of the CEA. And I first want to start out by saying there is nothing that I can say tonight that is as powerful as what I have heard from the community, from my fellow staff members, from parents that have spoken tonight. The closing of Garfield and the cuts that we are facing is heartbreaking. And there are certain things, though, like I've been in education for a long time. I've seen a lot of things come and go. And I have lived through cuts before. I have lived through changes before. There are several things, though, about what is happening now that concern me. First of all, there's not enough words to thank the teachers and all the staff members from whatever their job is for what they have done for our students and what they continue to do for our students until the day that they leave. But see, and I'm sorry that some people don't like the student-facing phrase. I don't understand why, because at the end of the day, it is these people here who go behind a closed door, who have to live with the decisions that everybody has made and the impact that it has on students. We have cut 4 special ed teachers. I still don't know the plan. What's the plan? What are we going to do? And in the absence of information, rumors get started. And we cannot be upset when somebody or the grapevine lights up because there is not information. We need information and transparency. I'm very, and I appreciate that we are trying, we're looking at everything that we're cutting, because cutting over $3 million is hard. It is made up of 3 million details that we have to look at. I was very concerned when the question was asked, well, if we can cut Good Shepherd, because you do have a building, Garfield will be empty, you could move into it. If we cut that, will we bring back a student-facing position? The answer was no. I don't understand why. If our priority is what our students are experiencing, why was that the answer? We are trying our best to do the best for the students. And I know that you are too. And we're asking you to look at the details of what decisions you are making. It is not a time to take things personally. Nobody's attacking anybody. We're asking questions in the hopes that maybe we can look at things a little differently and come up with some different solutions, maybe some compromises. We're not a corporation. We're not making hamburgers. We're not growing strawberries. We are developing human beings, and we're trying to educate them and love them, and we have to do the best that we can by them. So those little decisions that you're making really matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else coming up for public comment at this time, but thank you all for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate it. We're going to move on now to section 10, which is annual appointments and approval. I'll pass it on to, I guess, you, Steve.
For items, as part of the annual approvals, we have the architect of record, several appointments under 10.02, the broker of record for both health insurance and non-health insurance, the official banks of the district, the official legal notifications, the signatures, the QPAs, providing authorization to purchase fees and banknotes, authorization to transfer wires, payment of invoices, petty cash fund, custodian of records, the HERA plan, right to know and POSHA officers, public agency compliance officer, compliance action officer, the administrator of 403B plans, the homeless liaison, issuing officer for working papers, the Title IX coordinator, the school safety and security plan, the school safety and security officer, the American Disabilities Act officer, the student records, special education programs that we offer, the NJSIAA membership, the adoption of all policies and bylaws, the substitute rates, the athletic event staff rates. These are all the annual approvals that we go through annually in summary. For the ones that are professionals, I just want to make the quick note that RFPs were done, for example, for legal, architects, and so forth.
Thank you. So tonight we are looking for approval of items 10.01 to 10.31. Can I get a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Mr. Burns, roll call, please.
Ms. Brown. Sorry. Mr. Chu.
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco.
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
Ms. Mikulski.
Yes.
Ms. Sherman.
Yes.
Ms. Z.
Yes.
Mr. McMillan.
Yes.
Mr. Dilkis.
Yes.
And Ms. Mai.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to section 11, business administrator and board secretary report.
For the business administrator report, I believe it's presented at the work session last week, but just to recap, all the transfers are within the 10% limit of the county before you need county approval. The board secretary and treasury reports are all in balance, and currently our cash flow is well. The student activity reports just shows that they're balanced as well. I do want to make a note on the food service financial statement. If you notice, it has an unpaid balance claims of about $100,000. That obviously we're not the only district experiencing that, but I do want to make that comment. After COVID, those numbers have spiked significantly in all districts. That's not something that we're different, but that is something that is to be cognizant of. Because I want to point out there on the treasury report, if you notice, the cash for the cafeteria account is actually in the negative on the treasury report. For the cafeteria account, cash. With that being said, that's more to do with the fact that our state reimbursements did not come in on time for last month. But the point being though is we are tighter in that account than ever before because of the unpaid balances in the cafeteria.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So I thought it was last month that we actually were, yes, very recently, we had no outstanding uncollected charges, or very, very minimal. And we were celebrating that because we were in such a hole. So that was reported to us, and now this is quite different. I don't know if this is just a month, but we were celebrating not that long ago.
Yeah, well, I can't speak for last month, but what you're talking about, but I can tell you that there's never been, I don't have any knowledge of there never being a balance. That is always.
No, yeah, is it just because the state's reimbursement is not?
No, because that's a different thing. But I will double check with you why that came up and get back to this. Yeah, because I understand your concern, but I know we've always been, in the business offices, we've always been talking since COVID that there's been this unpaid payment status.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember this because we had a big issue with it, and then we were, seemed like we crawled ourselves out of it thanks to, a lot of staff members, so following up.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just real quick, looking at what was presented last month and what was presented this month, it seems like that 105 that you were referencing is the same on both. So I don't know what Beth Ann was referring to about us being out of the hole on that, but it might not be this 100,000 that you're talking. It might have been something else.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll clarify.
Okay, I appreciate that. So maybe we're just reporting on different things. Okay. Purchase orders and warrants. You have the list of everything that was issued for the last month on the agenda. So on that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So that was just a recap of what we talked about last week. So we're going to move on to section 12, buildings and grounds and finance, and this one requires a vote. So do you want to go through that too, please? Thank you.
We're looking at items 12.01 through 12.24. Yeah, 24. Again, just approval of the transfers, approval of the board secretary report. You're certifying that we have not overexpended the bank account. The approval of the secretary and treasury reports, student activities reports, food service report. All purchase orders and warrants. You're approving the final budget. The closure of Garfield Elementary School, the tuition rates for next year. The New Jersey DOE School VED Filters Program, which is a grant program for us. The FAST program, the NutriServe Food Management RFP, or contract renewal, sorry. The Phoenix Advisors as our advisor for financial services. The Gloucester County Special Services CRESS program, the homeless tuition contracts, monetary donation for the special education program, and shared maintenance for Mount Ephraim, and several facility usage requests.
Any questions or comments from board members?
You need a motion first.
I'm sorry, can I make a motion to approve items 12.01 to 12.24? Thank you, Roger.
So moved.
And a second? Any questions or comments from board members?
So I think, first I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who spoke tonight, all the staff and also the parents for sharing, especially the amazing work that the staff within the district have been and continue to do for the students in the district. I think that's really important for us to have heard that, because I was explaining to someone else recently how the layoff process has to work in New Jersey, and one of their statements to me was, oh, it's as if the law makes it so that you can't consider the individual person. And so one of those things that I think was brought up tonight was, hey, we should, I think very reasonably have, criteria for how we perform layoffs that look at effectiveness, at impact on students, and so forth. And I think we've heard a lot about some really amazing young teachers who are now being let go. And this is the same thing that happened 2 years ago as well, when we had to deal with RIFs. And this is where I would encourage our community to advocate at the state level. Because in New Jersey, I'll just read right here, NJSA 18A:28-10, this is the statute by law that dictates how we have to do layoffs. It says, dismissals resulting from any such reduction shall not be made by reasons of residence, age, sex, marriage, race, religion, or political affiliation, but shall be made on the basis of seniority, according to standards to be established by the commissioner with the approval of the state board. This is one of those things where, this is why when I was talking to the person about how this has to be done in New Jersey, they said, oh, it's as if we cannot. You can't look at the person. And that is, I think, really unfortunate, because we have to, by law, do risk by seniority. And that's something that needs to change at the state level if we're able to take into consideration things like the disparate impacts that different folks might have there. And so that's something that I would definitely encourage folks. And I think also to mention that make sure the community understands that just because a teacher is being laid off here, that has nothing to do with their impact or their effectiveness on our students. Clearly not, as we've heard tonight, right? But by the fact that this is how we must perform layoffs, which is clearly has a very negative impact on our community.
I just want to say that I appreciate everyone getting up to talk tonight, and this is not easy. And our hearts go out to all of you. I want to thank the Garfield staff and all the teachers that have been here tonight for everything that they've done. And we are going to, again, try to come up with solutions at every corner we can turn. And we will do our best to engage the community. And it means a lot to me that you were all here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, so a few things. So what I think are our next steps in terms of bringing back or thinking about how we can meet the budgetary needs in the future?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time, please?
So I was wondering, what are the next steps for us to meet the budgetary needs of the future, right? Because this is not a problem that is going to go away.
So I think first we need to make sure that we are appropriately engaging our community. And so I guess the easiest way is to kind of lay out what conversations need to be over the next several months. And so just as a point of clarity, operational referendums were not available to school districts until last year. And so there was a comment that was made by a community member, very articulate, very passionate, but school districts did not have the statutory authority in order to go to operational referendum until what we call the Robbinsville case. And that didn't take place until last year. And so they were the test case that pushed and set precedent with the 2% cap law and the traditional referendum. And so I do believe it's appropriate for the board to take the next several months to advocate, yes, at the state level, advocate, yes, at the local borough level, but also engage our community, specifically to get a better understanding of the threshold and the contents of what should be contained in an operational referendum. From my perspective as the district leader, I would strongly recommend that we place great priority on teachers, support staff, specifically. Those are tangible things that are digestible, palatable, and I believe that most community members would find worthwhile. I acknowledge that the infrastructure is important. However, I believe that the first step is for us to make sure that we have appropriate staffing to meet student needs, and then after we have secured that, then we start having more targeted conversations about creative ways to address the infrastructure. And so I would say that if we're looking at a timeline, between now and probably September, the board really needs to get granular and detailed to make sure that we are really clear, specifically not on positions for position's sake, but on values, what our community truly values, and then also to better gauge where is the need, needs that are not currently being met with the current resources that are available, in order to then begin quantifying what that might look like with options for the community to be able to consider good, better, best. And then once the community has had the opportunity to be able to kind of weigh in and help you not only construct what the ask is, then we have to go through the formal process of what's called approval of a ballot question, with the goal being the board putting a ballot question up for a November vote. That would be my recommendation.
So that's something I guess we'll be working on probably pretty soon to get going, and I think that, you know, hearing again all of the impact, right, that we are losing because of the need to balance the budget. You know, I am personally a big proponent in asking for additional funding to be able to bring back as many staff and programs and services as we can. It's something that I think, from what I've heard throughout the community, folks want, and it's one of those things where I think that's why it's really important for us to understand that the financial solution needs to come from us, from the community, because that's the only way for us to get forward, and it's to be able to convince the community that yes, that is how we have to address these financial issues going forward, because the costs are only going to keep on rising year after year after year after year. And I think that is why it's so important for us as a board to be unified, because that's how we then convince the community that yes, it is worth it to invest financially within our district, which I think all of us believe is true.
As we walk into this vote, as the Oakland representative, I want to just remind everyone it is a shared service district. So whatever decision is made today will affect my district in Oakland. Tomorrow night we're voting on the budget. So I have another one of these I got to do tomorrow. So just keep that in mind as we place the vote.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig? Yes. Mr. Marco?
Yes, but I vote no on 1213.
Ms. Devine?
Yes.
Ms. Mikulski?
Yes, but I vote no on 12.9, 12.10, and 12.13.
Ms. Sherman?
Yes, in 12.08 warrants, I abstain from check number 63863.
63863.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Z?
Yes, except for 1209 and 1213.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkus?
Yes.
Ms. Mai?
Yes. Ms. Hal Turner, we have not heard much from you tonight, but please go on to section 13, curriculum.
Good evening. The items before you tonight, as we discussed at Committee of the Whole last week, are field trips at items 13.02, 13.03, and 13.04. 13.05 are a few, no, it doesn't extend onto the top, a few home instruction and out-of-district placements for medical reasons. Item 13.06 is the approval for our new elementary reading curriculum. This will also appear on the Oakland Board agenda tomorrow night, Jimmy. And as you heard me share at Committee of the Whole last week, and as Dr. McDowell shared on, I think, several instances earlier tonight, this will be with the hopeful positive vote tonight, this will be a multi-year phased-in approach over the next 2 to 3 years to fully ultimately impact our K through 5 elementary school in Collingswood, and hopefully the same in Oakland tomorrow. This aligns to our already existing HMH into math, elementary math curriculum, connects up into our secondary 6 through Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, HMH curriculum, excuse me, and syncs with our NWEA MAP universal screener. The parent company for HMH and MAP is the same. And so there's a nice integration aspect related to these various programs. As you've heard others share tonight, we have sought significant feedback from a variety of stakeholder groups that have been directly involved with the daily teaching and learning of our pilot curricula this year. Including obviously the staff most directly involved, as well as student feedback. And those are the short list of items in my section tonight. And of course, any questions or comments from you all.
Can I get a motion to approve section 13.01 to 13.06?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And I will second Meredith by saying, does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Burns, roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig? Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes.
Ms. Mikulski?
Yes.
Ms. Sherman?
Yes.
Ms. Z? Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkus?
Yes.
And Ms. Mai?
Yes. Okay, moving on to section 14, which is personnel. Who would like to present for that?
Steve continues to give me the hard ones. Just a sec. So with personnel, there's a lot of moving parts, and so I'm going to go really, really quickly. I won't go line by line, but I'll go very quickly. So 14.01 is our normal monthly substitutes and tutors. 02 is the travel expense. 03 is the elimination of a district office position. 04 through 13 are resignations. Many of the positions were individuals that were affected in the reductions. Point 14 is a termination. 15 through 19 are family leave. 20 through 23 are substitutes and replacements. Point 24 is to receive a German student teacher volunteer for their observations. And so we've been extremely fortunate to have a very strong state-recognized German program with international exchange. And generally every other year in years opposite of our student international travel experience, we try to host a student teacher to continue with the exchange. And so that's what you'd be voting to accept. Point 25 is the newbie enrichment. 26 and 27 are summer hours for counseling. And so the way that each section is organized is you have tenured and non-tenured by grade band and grade level. And so pre-K to grade 5 admin, tenured and non-tenured. Grades 9 through 12 administrative staff, tenured and non-tenured. And then we have preschool through grade 5 teaching staff, tenured, non-tenured. Grades 6 through 8 teaching staff, tenured, non-tenured. And grades 9 through 12 teaching staff, tenured and non-tenured. 38 through 45 are going to be office and service personnel that are in 10-month and 12-month capacities, tenured and non-tenured. 46 will be summer hours for pre-K through grade 5 for 10-month employees. And 47 was the same for high school staff. We are seeking approval for section 14.01 to 14.47 with all of the names and status of each affected staff member included in the body of your board content.
So moved.
Okay. Can somebody second that?
Second.
Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, Mr. Burns, roll call, please.
Mr. Chu,
Yes.
Mr. Marco,
Yes.
Ms. Devine,
Yes.
Ms. Mikulski,
Yes.
Ms. Sherman,
Yes.
Ms. Z,
Yes.
Mr. McMillan,
Yes, except for where I'm required to abstain.
Mr. Dilkus,
Yes, except we're required to abstain.
and Ms. Mai.
Yes. We're getting to the end, guys. Section 15, culture and climate and policy. Who would like to present for that? There are a couple on for first read tonight. We talked about them last week. Anybody want to present for that, or am I okay to do it?
I can do it,
Okay.
that's fine. Excuse me, for first read, section 15.01, there are 3 policies: sexual harassment of support staff, certified staff, and then library resource materials. And section 15.02 are for a second read. We've discussed these this will be the second month. 9230, parental responsibilities, revised, nepotism, employment of the chief school administrator, sexual harassment, of staff, library material, and then public complaints. 15.03 are the corresponding regulations that are also attached, and we are seeking approval of 15.01 through 15.03.
Can I get a motion to approve said items? And a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members? Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Devine,
Yes.
Ms. Mikulski,
Yes.
Ms. Sherman,
Yes.
Ms. Z. Mr. McMillan,
Yes.
Mr. Dilkis,
Yes.
and Ms. Mai.
Yes. Moving on to section 16, miscellaneous.
Section 16.01 is the HIB report from the previous month, seeking approval for item 16.01.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Devine,
Yes.
Ms. Mikulski,
Yes.
Ms. Sherman,
Yes.
Ms. Z. Mr. McMillan,
Yes.
Mr. Dilkis,
Yes.
Ms. Mai.
Yes. Section 17 is the public participation for the committee of the whole. During the regular board meeting, we only have one opportunity for public comment, and that is before we vote. So I'm going to move on to section 18, adjournment. Can I please get a motion to adjourn? And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.